All right, Council, I'll call to order a regular session of the Chisholm City Council for October 27th, 2021. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll start out with a roll call, Margaret.
Councillor Halverson.
Present.
Councillor Michelaraha.
Present.
Councillor Fountain.
Here.
Councillor Lance.
Here.
Councillor Vaki.
Here.
Mayor Ciampa.
Here. Adopt the agenda, Council. We had some things come in late, but we do have to take them up because they all have to do with the purchase of this ambulance building, which we want to get in and start the transition. So there are going to be three items. I'm going to put them under Attorney Lindsay. It's the purchase agreement for the ambulance garage, a resolution having to do with authorizing the city to carry out the purchase agreement of that building. And then we're going to look at a leaseback agreement since we're trying to close by November 1st. The Longyear Incorporated would need to lease the building from us for a month. So, Margaret, is that everything? Just that one three-part item to add?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
So, Council, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda with the three items having to do with the ambulance garage under Attorney Lindsay.
Motion to approve with the changes.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? Margaret?
Councillor Halverson.
Aye.
Councillor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Ciampa.
Aye. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted. A pledge of allegiance, Council.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, public participation. First, we have we brought in the folks from IROC and the Discovery Center, give us kind of a rundown on how the season went up at the Redhead Mountain Bike Park and all the events that took place up there. I wrote some names down. I don't know if it's everybody, but we have Pete Carroll, we have Jordan Metza, Pat Cassingham, Donna Johnson. I don't know who else might be on, but good evening. Who wants to start? Give us all the great news.
I guess I can start. Donna Johnson from the Minnesota Discovery Center.
Hey, Donna.
Hi. So this summer was a busy summer. We had all of our trailhead amenities put in with the pavilion and the changing rooms and porta-john shelters, picnic tables, Adirondack chairs, fire pits and log rack, bike repair station, bike stands. So I think everybody's really appreciating the kind of social gathering space that was created there. We also got a trail counter that will be utilized next season. A lot more signage and welcome sign and kind of more clearly defining the parking area up at the park. And then also we put in the dock, had the shuttle van and trailer, and then all of our water rec equipment for the kayaks, canoes, storage racks, paddles, all the good stuff. We've also had Constant Group consultants, some lobbyists helping us with our LCCMR grant funding. A lot with social media and Facebook and the Go Redhead campaign. So we've spent a lot on crowdfunding with the Old Saw Media Kickstarter video and all the different hostings for that. Maybe Jordan, if you want to give an update at this point on the Go Redhead campaign.
Absolutely. My little camera shield was on there. Thank you, Council, for having us here. My name is Jordan Metza, Fund Development and Marketing Coordinator here at the Minnesota Discovery Center. I'll be updating today, just a quick update on the LCCMR grant application that we submitted for the Phase 2 expansion of Redhead, and that the Council was generous and the City of Chisholm was generous for being the fiscal agent for. On LCCMR, we don't yet have an allocation. The committee has been meeting regularly, but hasn't been able to come up with a funding formula where they get at least the support of 12 of the 17 committee members. And so we're hoping that, in the next couple months, they're able to put together a funding formula from the LCCMR committee with the support of at least 12 of those committee members. And then they'll make a recommendation to the full state legislature for funding the projects and the 2022 submissions, 2022 grant projects that would be receive funding as early as July of next year. Right now, it's kind of in a holding pattern. We're waiting for that final meeting and allocation process to happen. If for some reason the allocation doesn't receive the support of 12 of the 17 members, they will just allow the full legislature to determine funding on a case-by-case basis for all 100 of the applicants that submitted and were accepted to this year's round of funding. So the good news is that we have been accepted and we will receive some level of funding. I spoke with our consultants from the costing group and prior to this meeting, and tried to get them to kind of give me a ballpark figure of what the minimum we might receive out of this grant would be. And we're pretty confident that the minimum, the floor of this grant funding that would be awarded to us would be a minimum of $1 million. So that's exciting. We hope to obviously get a little bit more to be able to complete the full scope of the work we identified in the initial grant application. But if for some reason the funding doesn't line up with the scope of work, the cost of work particularly, we do have the ability to draw that back in some form or fashion to match the amount of funding that was appropriated. So we'll probably hear more news on that in December, and it'll probably be good news for Chisholm. As you guys know, LCCMR did award the Bruce Mine head frame of about approximately $2 million. So I'm hoping that, and then of course the LCCMR funded the Mesabi Trail. So I'm hoping that that'll actually help the decision-making process in our favor as they review our grant application. That's pretty much it for LCCMR funding. Like I said, would be allocated as early as July of 2022. And then, we would go through that approval process. Of course, we'll work with the city every step of the way on making sure that we're not only fulfilling what we said we'd do in that grant obligation, but we're all satisfied with the work being done. I'm going to transition quickly to the Go Redhead campaign, the crowdfunding campaign. Currently, we're at $47,115 raised of the $100,000 goal that we initially had. It was kind of set at first to be a 30-day campaign. We were going to try and raise that goal in just 30 days, but we realized it's going to take a little bit longer than that. So we did extend the campaign. We didn't put a timeline on it. So we can run the campaign until we raise the 100,000. And we have a pretty good idea that we'll be able to capture the remaining funding through our business community, who has been extremely supportive of this project, including many businesses in Chisholm. And we are just so grateful for that. Once we do hit that $100,000 goal, we will, figure out a way, working with Steph and Brian and everybody, to get that money back to the city. And, we can begin discussing how to implement that funding. Even though this funding was raised outside of the initial grant application that we applied for LCCMR, it was to offset the cost of the full $1.9 million that the phase 2 expansion would have costed. So we hope that the money is spent in line with what the scope of work is within the LCCMR document. But we hope to have, in the next 60 days or so, hopefully have that completed. We've already raised back the initial investment the council approved of that $30,000, and just can't thank this council enough for taking that, for helping us out with that and promoting the region. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's any. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. We'll keep you guys in the loop, and as far as when we hit that goal, and make sure to keep track of our social media pages. It's a good way to get updates. Or feel free to give Donna and I a call if you have any specific questions or require additional information. That's it for my portion.
All right, the other things I've listed, we also are working on Ride the Range campaign, that with the city and with, Tioga and Giants Ridge and Cuyuna to help market our area as one destination. So when people come up from like the cities or further, we recognize there's a lot of biking to do all within, 40 miles of each other. So hoping to get people to stay here longer or visit more than one park at a time. So that's been going really well. The social media on that's been going well. Also, we've been able to donate back about $6,000 to IROC trail maintenance through sales of Redhead swag here at the Discovery Center. So everything that we saw with Redhead logo, proceeds go back to IROC to help with trail maintenance and their needs. So I'm happy to see that number. We also did filming with Free Hub. We're going to be featured in a documentary called Bike Town. So they were on site for about a week filming downtown Chisholm and out at Redhead. Pat might have some more good insight on that. Other than that, we did have our 3 big events this summer. We had the grand opening on June 26th, which we feel like we've seen over 1,000 people attend that event. That went really well. And then we had the Renegade race on September 11th. I didn't get the final number of runners on that, but I'm sure I can get that from United Way. And then we just hosted the Minnesota High School League Mountain Bike Race, October 9th through 10th. The parking lot was full. They figured an average of 3,000 people per day were on site. They were looking, and I've been in talks with the president of the league that I'm pretty confident we'll get a date again for next year. So now this year we've learned how busy and what a huge event that is. But I know a lot of the restaurants had, over 2-hour wait times. All the hotels were booked. Cars with bikes all over the Iron Range. So it was really fun to participate in and see how that event really unfolds. And with news and media, I tried to track how many newspaper articles we had on Redhead. I know we had over 28, but I'm sure there's probably more. I think we've hit the media with television over 12 times and all over YouTube. So the word's getting out there. The media's out there. We were featured in Outside Magazine, getting a lot of national attention. So that's really exciting. And then if you've seen Fairview shot a commercial on Redhead and made billboards. So that's exciting. And then we also had a really successful summer with 30 West on site. They had 17 bikes available for rental. I think they sold a lot of biking merchandise and did a lot of rentals and repairs. I know they're busy down there all the time. I think that's it from me in a really high level overview, but a lot of time was spent on Redhead this year, and it's still seeing people pulling into the parking lot. So it's exciting. Any questions?
Council, anything for Donna or Jordan? I have a couple of comments. I love the idea of the counter for so you know how many people are using the park. That's great. I love to hear that you are actually selling some stuff and we're putting it back into the trail. That's good. That's a great thing. And the movie is just phenomenal. I just watch it every so often. I grew up in that mine pit, so it's neat to me, probably more than anybody. So just nice to see my old stomping grounds. So. Well, we certainly appreciate all the work you guys did up there all year. So, thank you. I guess we have Pete on, we have Pat on. I don't know who else. You guys want to chime in at all?
This is Pat Cassigan with IROC. I guess I can talk a little bit about trail maintenance and let Pete take over on everything, whatever else. But so trail maintenance this year as compared to last year, there was probably about double the amount of work that needed to get done. And it was a little trickier this year with everybody's lives going somewhat back to normal with COVID restrictions lessening. So wasn't as many people to volunteer this year, but we still were able to come together, and reports from most people is they were really happy with the state of the trails. So that worked out really well. We had a few hiccups with some things, but now we have a storage container on site. It'll be locked up, that all of our equipment will be able to be kept right on site, and people will be able to access it, so volunteers can kind of come whenever. And we're going to take a slightly different approach to getting volunteers for next year, where we'll probably have groups of people and they'll just have a certain trail will be their responsibility. So instead of trying to get tons of people together at one point to try to go out there and do stuff, hopefully it'll kind of work out a little bit smoother. Other trail systems have used this system organization, and it's worked out well for them. So that's what we're going to try next year and see how it works out.
Pat, just a comment, you know, the city council is looking at our budget right now, and obviously when you're a city council and you look at budgets, you don't have any money to start with. But our budget started out with a piece of equipment to help you guys up there, some type of automatic wheelbarrow or something. And then we also thought about getting you some two casual laborers to help out. Obviously, we don't know how that's all going to end. We're trying to figure out where we can save money too. But thoughts on those two items? I guess those are, you know, two of the main ones where we would be trying to help you with the maintenance.
Yeah, and I think at least right away, I think the two workers would probably help out the most, because especially now that, you know, we have more trail, and with the addition of the rim trail, that doubled the physical size of the trail system. And so right now, the biggest thing to be doing for maintenance is weed whipping. And that takes a long time to walk all the way around the outside of, you know, the trails. So having extra people to do that would be very crucial, I think, at least to start out with. Yes, the candy con would be really great too, because that would help out with some bigger projects that we might have coming up and, you know, other things. But I feel that two workers would help out the most.
Thank you, Pat. Pete, you want to chime in? You're still there somewhere?
Yep, I'm here. I think everybody has touched on everything that I had hoped to mention. Pat, do you have a recording of the total number of volunteer hours that we had? He mentioned it was about double previous years. So I remember we were up over 600, but that was a while ago.
Yes, I got it. The way that it was recorded this year kind of got a little bit skewed with recording it through Trail Forks and stuff. So they're saying like somewhere around 38,000 hours, but that would be them taking the volunteer hours and the attendance. And so I think we're actually sitting right around 1,200-ish.
1,200-ish hours. Okay. And in support of those race events, we had both an IROC event in advance of the race and a cleanup event after the race. So those were some of the major IROC activities around the trail, is just to help prepare for and then clean up after the major race events that Donna mentioned earlier on. So I just wanted to highlight those and emphasize again that the national press that we've received for the site really seems to be coming in strong. The one other thing that I did do is after the most recent event, the Minnesota High School event, where we had the thousands of people in attendance, I checked with Shannon Chisholm Roach to see how that resulted in attendance to Chisholm businesses and things like that. And Donna was right. Some really were full. The hotel was benefited greatly. The anecdote was that McDonald's ran out of Big Macs. Other restaurants in the area had long lines, and there were some that didn't necessarily feel the benefit as much as we would hope. And so Shannon and I had a conversation around that maybe Gary Shoquist in the upcoming year and folks from IROC can interface with those businesses to understand, what it is that mountain bikers in particular are looking for, and how that could be maybe better marketed to when this group anticipates coming back. And so provides an opportunity for exposure to the businesses, and if we can dial in getting them supplying things that the bikers in particular are looking for, then I think the businesses will feel that impact in future years.
If I can add to that, this is Jordan Metza. I just want to say I was shocked. My dad called me up in Orr. We own 2 resorts up in Orr, and we had, because of no hotels, we actually had mountain bikers at our resort staying in Orr over an hour north of here that came to the race, and that blew me away that they drove that far north to come to the race, and they were staying up at the poor man's fishing resort, we call it, but they enjoyed it, and so that just incredible where these people are going and how far they're coming to get here, and then they're staying an hour away just to be able to ride. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and it sounded like there were 4 teams staying at the hotel there in Chisholm, so that was good to hear too.
Definitely. Coach, anything for anybody on the call with us today before we move on? Travis?
Yeah, Mayor Champa. So I was up there that whole weekend and got some good feedback from some people as far as how it was handled and how the event went. And, I had a lot of bikers tell me that this was their favorite race, which was great. I do think there are some things that we need to do to better prepare to try to get more people downtown, and a few things that involving the campground that we can tweak, I guess. So I'll be sharing that information with the campground committee and Larry. But overall, yeah, it was just a fantastic event. I can't thank you guys enough for getting that here, and IROC does a great job. And I had a good conversation with Brianna and Miriam, who I'm very much looking forward to working with, the new leadership in IROC. So anyway, there was some feedback given to me. I do think that we need to take a look at a couple of things on how we can get more people to downtown. I did myself reach out to business owners and ask if they did feel an effect from it. And pretty much I had one business that said yes, and the rest were a little bit maybe. So I think there's some room for improvement there as we grow it.
Yeah, just to spin off that, Travis, I hope once the season kind of winds down here and we get into the winter, maybe the city council can sit down with the Discovery Center and IROC and anybody else we feel is necessary. And we really need to look at what everybody's vision is for up there to try to make sure at least we all understand where we're all going together, so we can make, these things tend to get momentum on their own, and we got to make sure we're all going the same direction. So that's about it. Anybody else? April?
Mr. Mayor, I know that you and I and Stephanie had just briefly had an email conversation about some things that the bike trail will need possibly. So hopefully we can get those, make a list of things and items that they'll need before they close for certain things. Right, Steph, can you touch base on that a little bit?
Yes, we're just looking at getting some signage for closing. The trail will be closed November 6th until we can get the winter recreation schedule in order, and we can get the grooming. And I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about winter recreation at all today or not. But we can touch on that a little bit. But I am in the works of getting some signage for the closing period and some other things.
Yeah, and Pat has the communication with regard to fat tire biking up there and snowshoeing and what wrecks the trail and what helps the trail, so that we have in our packet tonight. But
Yeah, so we will need, oh, sorry, Mayor.
I was just gonna say, it's tough buying a lot of signage when we don't have no money invested or in the budget for it yet. So we'll have to leave some in for next year.
Well, thank you all very much for your work. Appreciate it.
You still at work, Adam?
Always.
All right, anything else before we move on to our next folks that are with us tonight? All right, let's move on. Thank you, IROC. Thank you, Discovery Center. All of you, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next public participants, this is they're from Transmedic. As you recall from our Monday meeting, this is the group that Jess wants to look at for our medical billing for ambulance service. I see we have a gentleman named Buck McAlpine on with us, and I believe Beth Newman is also with Transmedic. They're going to just talk a little bit about the service they can provide to us tonight. Jess, did you want to share anything before they start? You brought them in.
Not at this point. If you're able to stick around if they have any questions,
Sure.
It's totally up to you. But yeah, go on ahead. Thank you for coming too.
Well, great. Thanks, Mr. Mayor and members. My name is Buck McAlpin. I'm the owner of Transmedic Medical Billing, and Beth Newman's with our operations president for any technical questions anybody may have. But my wife Cindy and I, both paramedics by trade, purchased Transmedic back in 2017 from a lady I did some consulting with on revenue cycle and ambulance finance issues. And we're located in West St. Paul. We have about 25 employees and bill for about 30 clients. We have some very large ones like Hennepin County Medical Center, St. Paul Fire. But the majority of the clients we work with are ones like you that are municipal-based EMS operations. We have some privates like the Grand Rapids Ambulance Service, but we have quite a footprint in the Iron Range with Orr, I heard talked about tonight, Virginia, Eveleth, Cloquet, and many of the folks up in that area, Carlton, Cromwell, Wright, and folks that we've worked with for years. When Jess reached out to us about making a proposal to you, we appreciate that opportunity. I think we've kind of taken the premise that our background in EMS has allowed us to be a real accurate and pretty dedicated billing agency, and not only around ambulance billing, but we like to offer services that we've been working with Jess on around some consulting information around the Minnesota EMS delivery system. And I started my career in 1985 at North Memorial as a paramedic and then transitioned into government affairs. I still do lots of lobbying for healthcare entities. And Beth does our day-to-day operations with my wife Cindy for our billing company. And all of our staff are on site. We don't use remote staff. We've got a large office space there in West St. Paul, and we're able to move stuff through. But we have clients as small as 200 runs a year to the ones like Hennepin that do 70,000 transports a year. So we feel we have the expertise and the skill level to kind of fit in all that range. Very familiar with the Chisholm ambulance and the background with it. I think talking to Jessica and some of her direction, she wants to see it go. We feel she's going in the right direction. We worked with her sharing some rate ideas off ambulance rates and some ideas to be sure that we like to be consistent for Medicare, Medicaid audits, and that what we set for rates in your service area are ones that are kind of standard, especially around the Iron Range for other similar sized ambulance services and what they can do. But we just like to say we appreciate the opportunity. How we are reimbursed for what we do. We take a percentage of the claims and a flat fee per run. My motto has been in healthcare finance, as I've been involved both on the ambulance side and hospital side, that the better our folks do working for you, making sure we don't put people in collections, that we bill people's Medicare, Medicaid, and their insurance appropriately, that we're able to optimize what Jess and you as a city need to optimize your revenue in the ambulance business to hopefully someday fund the ambulance service to operate itself independently. Well, with that, Mr. Mayor, we'd sure stand for questions, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be part of the Chisholm team.
Thank you, Buck. Well, you certainly come across as knowledgeable, and I myself like the, what's the word, the demographic, you know, where you're working from big to small, you're working with some companies, some ambulance services in our area, so we have comparables. That's important to, you know, have that knowledge flowing because of the comparables. You'll see a lot more, and things tend to happen before up here in the Twin Cities, you know, so we kind of find out about things later. So certainly I'm not against a company out of the Twin Cities working with us. Council, questions for Buck at this point? We do have you as the second item on our regular agenda tonight, so you're up pretty quick. I guess we got nothing. If you stick around, maybe we'll come up with something. Did Beth want to chime in? Or she's just here to listen in.
I'm just here to listen in and any kind of technical questions you guys might have, or if you guys have any questions directly for me, but I think Buck pretty much gave a really good background about our company and that. So, yep. If you guys have anything directly for me as like day to day or how transition would work or anything like that, that's what I'm here for.
I guess if I could come up with one question I would have, it was on how you bill. It's kind of gray until we've been a year into this, isn't it? Because number of runs and percentage of, what'd you say, Buck, percentage of collectibles? And the contract's 27 pages long, so I'll be completely honest with you, I didn't go through that thoroughly.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and members, most of the contracts, good old HIPAA and government things, right? About how we protect your data and your privacy. But, you know, I think, yes, a solid year of data is important. But I think when we worked with Jess, we were able to annualize out based off similar ambulance services, what we think are some pretty accurate projections. There's a gentleman that works in my office that consults around the country that has a contract with us at Transmedic that all he does is this type of ambulance modeling. And obviously, the cat in the room is always 70+% of our patients are on Medicare or Medicaid. So no matter if we bill them $1 million a run, the government pays us $450 base basically and $11 a mile. So there's a cost shifting factor that goes to the commercial side, but there's things we've worked on legislatively over the years, like intergovernmental transfers and supplemental payments as a municipal ambulance operations, that we can leverage some federal money for underpayment of Medicaid and things like that. But those are just some things that we do to be able to work with Jess and what she does and the city finance people. The one thing we found out, and I'm sure the finance folks around here, work well with your city finance team and give them accurate reporting, and you'll make them very happy and a very compliant client to work with. We find our city clerks and city finance folks like to really know month to month what their bad debt is, what we can do to optimize their collections. And still you're going to have mom show up at the city hall and want to drop her check off. And we do things on our side to really take that load off the city staff and funnel most of that all electronically now through our office. And we like to make it seamless for the patient. The better Jess and her team do up front with documentation and how we work and train with them, really make sure that people don't get bills. They don't get a lot of deductible stuff besides a small amount for Medicare. And we want to be sure we're getting paid for things that we can do. Still 95+% of Minnesotans are insured. Let's be sure we go after the people that have insurance.
Thank you, Council. Anything else before we move on? All right, thank you, Buck and Beth. All right, so we'll move on to council reports. We'll go in order. I wrote them down as you guys chimed in. So we'll start with April tonight. Good evening, April.
Hello, good evening. Got the dog in the background, so I'm just gonna have something brief here. The Pink Angel Fun Day at Valentini's is on Friday, October 28th. Check out their Facebook page. Northbound Realty LLC is having a pumpkin carving contest. You can post your pumpkin pictures by 3 p.m. on October 30th on their Facebook page. Lake Street Trick or Treat, Friday, October 29th, starts at 3 o'clock. And Adam touch base about what the fire department's gonna be doing and all the other local businesses as well. Halloween, how do you say that? Halloween Pet Parade is also on Friday, October 29th at 6 p.m. Starts at Kiwanis Park and works its way up towards City Hall. Kids Plus Halloween Trunk or Treat is at the Chisholm High School parking lot from 1 to 3 on on the 31st. And also on the hold on, guys. What else was on the 31st? There was something else. I guess I don't have it in my notes. But the Chisholm Chamber is looking for home-based businesses for November 11th for the annual holiday market and chamber expo for Saturday, November 20th, 10 to 3 at Minnesota Discovery Center. So if anybody's interested in that, they can contact Shannon at the Chisholm Chamber. Other than that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Halloween's on the 31st. Thank you, April. Travis, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. I am just going to echo Councillor Fountain and give a shout out to Shannon and the Chamber. It is a joy to be on that committee with them, and they do great things for this town. The Halloween parade is certainly going to be one that I am going to check out. I think that's very cool. Aside from that, I just want to give a plug to the Community Foundation and thank them. They did award the EDA a grant in this grant cycle. So thank you for that. And I'm sure we'll have the reports for everyone once we get that all taken care of at our next EDA meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Marty, report tonight. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm going to follow up on the Redhead 2021 reporting that IROC and MDC so graciously gave us earlier. To give a report on the work that the city oversaw this summer. When the trail was built in 2019-2020 period there, the grant award was something just under 1.8 million for Redhead. And IRRR reserved $200,000 out of that to give to the city for maintenance and improvements and upgrades. So basically they built the trail with 90% of the money, gave us about 10% of the money, with the understanding that they'd realize there's probably going to be some fix-ups needed and upgrades and repairs. So that grant to us was $200,000 for, I think, a 3-year period from 2021, 22, 23. And this year we had Rock Solid Trail Contracting from Copper Harbor, Michigan out there. And it looks like our spend for this year will be right around $95,000. And that work consisted of fixing 8 bad corners that were very, very dangerous and unrideable. A lot of people were skidding off and going off into the woods. So they fixed up those corners and banked them so that people can actually ride those corners. So that was a big safety improvement. That took about 16% of our spend. The rim trail is about 5 miles long, and the east end of that trail, there's a lot of clay. And it was really, really wet last year when 2020 when they finished building it. It was really wet this spring. And so they spent about almost 50% of their time and effort, money on capping and putting in culverts and drainage and getting that in a much more rideable condition. So that was the biggest ticket item. The roller derby trail had some very dangerous berms and corners on it, and frankly just didn't ride very well. And so they came and spent about 15% of the work on upgrading that trail. In fact, they had to come back this week because there's some drainage issues there and some poor soils in the middle. So they're in there wrapping it up this week, doing some more drainage work. And then finally, IROC had suggested one new trail to improve the flow of the whole system, a connector trail. That was about 9 to 10% of the spend. And then they actually did finish early and under budget, so there is one new additional bonus trail that goes down towards the island, if anybody knows where the island is. And that is a really, really nice trail. So that is the summary of the work that Rock Solid did for the city of Chisholm on the physical aspects of the trail. It's, had nothing to do with promotion or tourism or events. It was just the physical condition and the riding quality of the trail. So that's that update. The question came up about events, and we can discuss this further. I know we have a permit form for people that want to have an event at the trail, and Stephanie developed that and works with people that want to come in and use the trail for an event. I think the question is, and I'm not really sure if she can approve those events at the administrative level, or does it actually need council approval when somebody comes for an event? So I think that's something that needs to be clarified. And then we have a planning meeting coming up November 2nd at Valentini's, IROC, the city, talking about upcoming things for Redhead and for 2022. I think some of the councilors will be attending. If anybody's interested, it's at Valentini's at 6 p.m. Tuesday, November 2nd. It's a kind of a Redhead kickoff committee meeting to talk about and address all these issues that everybody has brought up and how to make 2022 even better than this year was. Let's see, I think that's all I have. So I guess the only other thing, it's not Redhead related, but yesterday we had the ARDC at the Von Steffens Road and at the high school doing a survey of kids coming to school, leaving school, and observations on vehicle behavior, student behavior, bicycles, all in the safe routes to school, collection of data. And that was fun, interesting. And I think they'll be coming up with some good numbers and some good recommendations. And I believe that is all I have, unless anybody has questions, comments, concerns.
Marty, you spend a lot more time up at Redhead than I do, obviously, because you like to bike too. How did it go as far as just people going there? Feel it escalated for last year was a tough year, but the numbers were amazing, for lack of a better term, at the end of last year. Did it get better?
I haven't seen numbers. And I don't know, somebody made an estimate for last year, and I think somebody maybe estimated this year. I'm not sure how they're estimating, because I don't think that counter has been installed, and I don't know how they're estimating numbers. Obviously, last year was our first year of being open and being brand new, and people just discovering it and kind of coming out of COVID. I think the attendance was pretty good. I think it was much better this year. Every weekend I was out there, that parking lot was full. Even on off days, like weekdays in the afternoon, you'd see 15, 20, 30 cars parked out there. And a lot of people riding, a lot of people hiking. I would have to believe that there was more people out there this year than last year. And now having 30 West there renting bikes, I think that's great. And MDC having their watercraft down there, that's attracting people. So I would have to say there's more people out there this year, and more people from out of the area. I think last year I saw more local people, and this year there were locals out there, but way more people that I didn't recognize or had never seen before.
Good. I think my biggest concern about that whole area out there is just trying to keep that pot of money that we're using for repairs and trying to figure out how to get some additional grants and stuff to try to, because obviously when things happen, we got to fix it at whatever it costs,
Yeah.
So that's
these repairs are designed to get that trail to a point where it shouldn't really need much maintenance. The light maintenance has been by the volunteers and community, the summer casuals. That's, weed whipping and leaf blowing and raking. I mean, that's light duty stuff that volunteers have been doing, and maybe the summer casuals can help. The grant money was used for the dirt moving, where you need equipment and expertise from these builders. And so I've got a few ideas for next year, and I don't know that we necessarily need to spend all of that. We can reserve some of it for additional maintenance if we need, but I mean, the objective was to get the trail to a condition where it really shouldn't require much maintenance anymore, other than the weed whipping and the leaf blowing.
Good.
And a little bit of raking or a little bit of drainage repair here and there.
Thank you, Marty. Adam, report tonight. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Just briefly, I'll let Chief Masusi touch base on what's going on at the fire department on Friday. But on Sunday, Halloween, we will also be down at Kids Plus Trunk or Treat, which will be in the gated area at the high school from 1 to 3, I believe. And a couple firefighters also coming down to the fire hall on Halloween night, probably 4 to 6 for any of the youngsters coming by. So, stop on by, check it out. Anybody's interested, bring your kids, gain some knowledge and see what we've been operating in and out of. This evening, I was just joined with our safety officer, Steph Holla, and we went over to the Virginia campus at the Mazaba Range, where the East Range Fire Department Coalition had retired Fire Captain Mike Dugan over to teach, emphasizing leadership and training. And it was a very good opportunity for our firefighters to come over there. It was a day class, and there was also an evening class. While I was there, I did run into fire chiefs over from Hibbing and Virginia, Chief Lewis and Chief brain fart, Jankala. But both of them spoke highly about Jess reaching out, questions she's been asking, and they're both are very impressed with the direction she's been taking, and told me to let everybody know that she's going in the right direction. So we should be very thankful for that. And I appreciate that, Jess, and all the hard work you've been putting forward. Quick question for Larry and Mayor, if you would touch base, not right now or maybe in your report. So I did field a call earlier with someone curious about the old concrete plant. See a lot of dirt works being done over there. My response was, I believe that's going to be used as a laydown area. I know it's been being used as a laydown area, so hope I didn't give him the wrong information. And then he was also concerned that nothing's really been talked about with the public safety building. And just kind of fear that this might be going by the wayside. Again, some kind of individuals here have seen this happen over the decades, and I had just informed them that the next time it comes to the council, we should be seeing a 95% completion meeting from 5 bugles. So I believe that is also the correct information. If I'm wrong, please, let us know. But other than that, no, that's it. It's been a really busy month. Budget meetings going on, so the public should know that we are working very hard, trying to make sure that we can lower that levy that we set, and make sure that we can do some projects around town and work hard for the city. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Adam. Cheyenne, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't have much of a report tonight. I was able to start my day at the elementary and the high school with the Safe Routes to School assessment that was happening. That was really fun. It was a joyous way to start the day. I heard that the Vaughn was even more adorable. So I'm a little disappointed I didn't get to go and see that. But like Adam said, budget meetings, not much else.
Is that Safe Routes to School, Cheyenne? Is that same thing Marty was talking about with the ARDC? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know what that is. Jim Johnson had been talking about it for a long time, and I knew it was getting started. So that's what they're doing. They're looking at traffic patterns and where people walk and everything else, and trying to keep everybody safe. So that's good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, report for me tonight. I'll keep it short. Public Utilities Commission, we finally got the rate study back. You got an email to you. Larry's going to be looking at asking us to approve some rates, coming up rates. So later tonight, we continue to talk about, this has been requested many times. I don't know if I brought it up at a meeting yet, but we're looking at outside water meters for watering lawns, sprinkler systems, swimming pools and things like that, where you rent the meter from the city, put it on your outdoor faucet, and you call in the reading and we take the sewer charge off or whatever for that many gallons, since it's not actually going down the sewer. So we continue to work on that program and how that's all going to fall together. HRA, we applied for a few CDBG loans for different things we need. So hopefully we get some of that. We were denied last year. So all deferred maintenance, everything we do up there is just trying to catch up on maintenance. So, and we continue to struggle with why some people are very, they don't take very good care of our places, let's just say. And it's unfortunate that the courts don't always work with us to try to get them out when they're just destroying the places. And when we end up finally getting them back and you got a $30,000, $40,000 bill to get them opened back up for somebody else to rent, it becomes very difficult. So that's always unfortunate. So we continue to work on that the best we can. So happy Halloween to everybody. I think we finally got a year, knock on wood. It's seems like it's supposed to stay relatively nice until all the way till about deer opener, which isn't good for the deer hunters. They like cold, miserable weather, I think. But I think that's all I got. Love the events the chamber is going to have on Friday night, and so good. That's all I got. Anybody anything else before we move on? All right, so we'll move on to our ambulance director. Good evening, Jess. Report tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and councils. Thank you very much for the kind words, Councilor Lance. You're going to be hearing a lot from me here in the new business section. Other than that stuff, I'm looking forward to being able to move on to the next step and continue developing policies and procedures. And I'm also working on the AEDs that we have throughout the public buildings in the city, and making sure those are all caught up and we have a solid plan for that. But that's kind of the course of action right now. Any questions for me?
Council, anything for Jess? Thank you, Jess. Well, Vaughn, Mandy, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a short report. I just wanted to let everybody know we do have our annual safety training scheduled. We'll be going through Advanced Minnesota, and that's actually going to be through Zoom. We held off as long as we could this year. We were hoping for an in-person training. It's just not going to happen this year. So we are scheduled for November 24th and December 1st. So employees will have their pick of a couple days that they can do that. Also, we do have a joint planning commission meeting and EDA meeting scheduled for Monday, November 1st, and that's going to be at 4 p.m. in the council chamber. I did send out an agenda today. I think Adam might want to add some things to that agenda, so if you want to just email me tomorrow, Adam, that'd be great, and we can get those out. Other than that, I just have a resolution to accept funds from the IRRB, and that should be the final resolution for this program that I'm requesting. I don't have much else to report.
Council, anything from Andy? And yeah, just one question. That building on 3rd Avenue and 3rd Street must be about the one that's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen an unusual vehicle sitting in the yard like 2 days ago. I'm assuming that must have been like an abatement company or something to look at.
Yes. Yep. Dave Rice is there removing asbestos.
Okay.
So. Mm-hmm.
That's all I got. Council, anything else for Mandy? Thank you, Mandy. We'll move on. Economic Development, Stephanie, report tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Jim Johnson and Tammy and myself have been working on a couple of pre-application grant program. One of them being the CDBG grant for the tennis court and basketball court. We're looking at getting some funding through there. The other one that Jim has been working on is the Safe Routes to School infrastructure. So right now we're in the planning stage. The Safe Routes to School has a second phase where they are looking at the specific projects for funding. That is another thing that we're looking at for the pre-application. And then also the Transportation Alternative Grant through MnDOT. That is for a pedestrian bike bridge over Trunk Highway 169, connecting Chisholm proper to Redhead Mountain Bike Park. So we've been busy getting some pre-grant applications done. Like Travis said, or Councilor Bucky said, that we did get funding through the Community Foundation with the intent of providing a grant program to businesses in Chisholm. We'll report more on that. Any questions?
Council, anything else for Steph on that? Thank you, Steph. City Engineer Jim, report tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Just a quick short one. We did have a status meeting at City Hall this morning at 8 o'clock with our prime contractor and the utility subcontractor on our 3rd Street Northwest project. And basically the status update is such that all the concrete work, curb and gutter, driveway, aprons, sidewalks, and so forth, was finished yesterday. And the utility contractor is planning to be back in this Friday and Monday, finishing up the connection of those temporary water services down on the west end that froze up last weekend, as well as making some repairs and also putting in the tracer wire boxes that are needed for the PVC sanitary sewer laterals so they can be traced in the future when Gopher State 1 requires or is needed at those services, so we can find that sanitary sewer. Also, Masabi Bituminous, the prime contractor, plans to be back in on Friday to start putting in the final gravel, the grid, grading the boulevard and the yard areas, such that they're looking at the middle of next week to put down that bituminous base course. And then after the base course is done, they plan to come in and do the erosion control. It's too late, excuse me, it's too late for sodding this year, so they're going to be seeding and mulching. Hopefully they're in the first half of November, so we've got erosion control, so we're not washing all that soil into our storm sewer system. So hopefully in a week, we'll have blacktop out there. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Jim, I have a couple of questions. I'm not going to beat you up on 3rd Street because I know you're as frustrated that that's not completed as I am. The only thing I'll add, I know that the ball's kind of in the contractor's court to tell us why they feel that it's not substantially completed and we're past the date. What was the holdup that was legitimate? So I'll wait for that report. The only thing I could say for future projects, and we don't have any immediate ones that we know of right now, but for future projects, when we hit the substantial completion date, from that minute on, we should have a report every day, literally. You should at least on what the reasoning is that we're not substantially completed once we pass that. Because, you know, if it gets too long, the council has to make a decision because they're getting beat up by the residents. And if liquidated damages are needed to get things done, you know, at least we have to be in a loop. So.
Absolutely, Mayor. That was the first item of discussion. Basically, I had started, well, it was obvious when we were having our status meetings, and I think it's the one that I referenced was on July 21st that I started requesting from the contractor an updated schedule and basically a need for a request for a change in that substantial completion date. I have received nothing to date, so it was an item of discussion this morning that the contractors need to be providing their reasoning, their justifications to SEH, who will then do the processing and send it on to the city, and I will be bringing that to the city council. You have the ultimate say on it. What we're looking at right now, if they can get that bituminous base course put down next week, that does fulfill substantial completion. But as you well know, we're probably 75 days, and per the contract, liquidated damages are at $1,500 per day. So it will be coming back to council, but I will do better in the future to keep you updated once we get to that substantial completion date as to what the status is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. Just one other item on that. Larry's mentioned a couple of times he's real concerned about the alley being able to grade it this winter or plow it this winter. So we got to make sure we're looking at that too. So.
Yep, that's part of that whole process this Friday, starting this Friday, going through probably next Wednesday. Hopefully it'll get paved on, the street will get paved on Wednesday. But all of that involves both the gravel and the grading on both the street and that alley, such that they're in drivable condition and can be maintained over the winter.
Thank you, Jim. Council, anything else for Jim? Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, move on. Larry, report tonight. Good evening. Oh, wait, let me answer Adam. That's a snow dump.
I know you're right there.
I called and asked already. It's going to be a snow dump.
Your face. So if I could start it off with a funny, everybody, we had so many people reach out. What's going on over there? What's going on? So it was the talk in the break room. So we started with saying, it's a Costco. Costco's coming to Chisholm. I mean, that's the biggest on Facebook. Everything you see on Facebook is they're opening a Costco on Duluth on the 30th, so the biggest joy, it's really funny. So we appreciate everyone that stopped down and said hello and wonder what we're doing. So we just soon have that and not the other side of that. So I will share with you, besides the Costco that we're not building at the east entrance, mind you, it is a snow dump. If you remember, we rented out our snow dump to XL Energy there for $27,000 for the 6 months. So we're making other arrangements, so we were able to benefit from that additional revenue we were able to get there. So, but the safe routes to school, I was overly impressed at the Yvonne and from Counselor Mikala there. I'm anxious to hear what she has from the and Marty's there too from the high school. But I was impressed on the parents and how respectful and how everybody took time to give way. We've seen, from my view, Tammy's seen much other, but I've seen only 2 real violators that were just kind of dangerous driving there with little kids and stuff on. But I think a lot of it comes with the age, and wanting to walk the little ones all the way up to the school and such. So that was really cool to see. I was impressed. So in Public Works, a few things. I know there's a long council report, but I know there's always questions if I don't give some updates. We're finishing up we've dug in all the conduit for the electric vehicle charging station at the campground. We're partners with Minnesota Power on that. And now we're just waiting. We'll wait for the electrician for the final hookup and install. And then we've been working at the skating rink for Tammy and all the kids and everything. We're very excited. If you haven't seen the skating rink, we hope we got the first ice on Iron Range this year, and we're going to have some hockey kids this year, which will be really great. Everyone's excited about it. We're sweeping daily, all day, every day. Even with the rain today, we usually don't sweep with the rain because it kind of spreads the mud, but we're able to go back and pick up some of them leaves and stuff that we want to get before we roll them into everyone's yard when we put the grader wings down. So we're watching the weather and prepping for winter. Always the weather looks very good right now, thankfully. Remember last year we had that big 10-incher, and it destroys everything. The ground isn't frozen, the streets aren't frozen, and that early snow just destroys everything. So we're glad we didn't have that as of right now. We really want even just an inch of frost or 2 inches of frost really will save our roads and the curb and everything behind the curb when we go to push it over. So, and then just continuing to work on budgets. And the mayor said we are working at the PUC level on those secondary meters. We were calling them irrigation meters to start, but we do have some requests already there for skating rinks. These folks put skating rinks in their yards, And then, we're in the water business to sell water. So we want to sell water and we want to make it right that they don't have to pay the sewer charge because it's not going down the sewer. So we're working on the PUC level and we're looking to get that done sooner than later. Other than that, it's I did forget some notes at work. So if there's anything I forget, please ask away.
Else, anything for Larry? Larry, I gotta ask just absolutely the stupidest question. And you may not know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it. So we got an electrical charging station in the city lot behind Tom and Jerry's back there. Now we got one at the campground. So how does a person use one? You go up there and you put your bank card in there and you buy electricity? Is that what you do?
Yeah, two different systems, Mayor. The first one is a level 1 charger, best you can get right now. Fast charge. We've seen Teslas there and that. You don't see those in Chisholm very often. But that was funded and done through the Volkswagen emissions settlement. And it's actually free for the first couple of years, is my understanding, depending on when that pot of money runs out. But you can actually charge there for free. And you'll see a blue Chevy Volt, a Chisholm resident has invested in, and he gets free power right now. And then at the campground, it will be credit card. It's actually an app that you use when you come up to these. But right now, we're just hoping for usage, and we're not charging anything right now. We got a really good rate for Minnesota Power, and we're just going forward with no charging right now. We're just hoping people use it and come to town and walk around with their cars being charged and spend money in Chisholm. So, but two different systems, Mayor, and two different partners.
Okay, good. Interesting. Anything else for Larry, Council?
Yeah, briefly, first I would say, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Mayor, for the work with the, Public Works as far as the watering. That helps out. If people can water their lawns, their flower beds, everything to make the city look better. People are gonna be coming up visiting from the cities, coming to visit for the bike trail, driving through the community. It's more welcoming. It looks better. It makes more people want to come here. So, thank you very much for advancing that.
When the whole town grass was dead this summer, it was easier to realize how much it needed when it hadn't rained in 6 months. So, all right. If that's all for Larry, we'll move on. Fire Chief, good evening, Chris. Report tonight?
Yeah, a quick report, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, yeah, we're excited to be part of the chamber event on Friday night downtown. We'll be there from roughly 3 o'clock till 7. We'll be handing out candy for the kids. We'll also be doing any information on fire safety, since it is Fire Safety Month. We'll have coffee and apple cider, I was told by one of the members, so that's good. We'll also have drawings for a few free smoke detectors we're going to be giving out. And then besides the training tonight and today that some of the guys went to, we also had a good training on Monday in Hibbing again. They did simulated airplane crash with a fuselage and did search and rescue out there with several other departments. So that was all very good training for us. That's all I have besides what's on the agenda tonight. Any questions?
Council, anything for Chris?
Yeah, Chief, you're missing one thing. Just like to point out, something that we're doing for our local areas too. French is having a training tonight, and they're going out and using all their air, and they don't have a way to fill their bottles. So we sent out our rescue 2 to go out there and help them refill. So when they get done, they're good to go back in service.
Good mutual. All right, we'll move on. I did not see Katie on tonight. I didn't see Vern either, I don't believe. So we'll just keep going. Tammy, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a short report. I just have to share this part of the Safe Roads to School. I have to give a shout out to Principal Hancock. He meets every bus that comes to that school in the morning and welcomes them. And I said to him, I said, do you do this every day? Every day. And I just thought, what a welcoming thing to do. which is going on with my projects. The fencing to the backstop for the hockey backstop is complete. Now we'll just have to put the wood boards up. I've ordered 18 solar lights and poles. Those will be going up around the lake and then in the disc golf area. The youth center was opened as of last Monday on the 18th. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays from 4 to 8 p.m. and that's going pretty well. Please help share the word. Besides that, I think that's it for this evening.
Thank you, Tammy. Council questions for Tammy.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just thank Tammy for ordering solar lights. What a wonderful idea. And thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah. So that way, you know, it's green, and it's giving light to Chisholm in a nice way. So, and making the trail a little safer.
Council, anything else for Tammy? Thank you, Tammy. We'll move on. City Attorney report tonight.
Good afternoon, Mayor. I've got some items on the agenda, and aside from that, no formal report.
Attorney Lindsay, wondering if you could send out a communication to the council addressing this concern I have. No hurry. Whenever you got an opportunity to review the joint powers agreement with us up at the Redhead. As this thing grows, I see, you know, we're like in charge of the park, but we have the Discovery Center sitting there. We have some county land, and I mean, you could answer it right now if you want to, but as this thing grows, we have parts of Redhead are growing onto properties that the city is in control of, but yet we're ultimately responsible, kinda, and I don't know if there's a concern there or not, and you can think about that. You don't need to answer it, but I know that there's a lot more going on. If the trailhead's built, it kind of infringes on, it's kind of on the Discovery property. I know we're all in a joint powers, but I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that's going to turn out ugly if something happens. That's all. Like you said, you don't need to answer it, but if you want to, you can.
Thanks, Mayor. So maybe what I'll do, I'll give a quick, easy answer, but what I will do is put a memo together to the council that explores, as things were originally designed and as it was originally structured, the answer to the question is very simple. The city was to receive control of some property via those land leases that would be under our exclusive control. But I think, Mayor, you make a good point that as the activity grows and as things start to branch out from there, and the actual park amenities and the things that look like they're very, very closely related to the park, as they spill out of those properties that we actually control, the liability question becomes a lot more complicated, and it's something that we've got to be very, very careful about. And so I'll brief that issue, and I'll provide a copy of that brief to our administrator that she can pass out to the council.
Thank you. I would feel better about that, I know. Council, anything for the attorney before we move on? Thank you, Brian. City Clerk Treasurer Eileen, report tonight. Good evening. Welcome back from your vacation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, council members. Just a couple of updates. If you haven't had an opportunity to stop by City Hall, it's really decorated nicely. Christy did a really good job with the Halloween decorations. And we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from the community. So it looks really nice if you can drop by and check it out. The accountant hiring committee met for the first time today. We took a look at some of the applications and started the implementation of the new revised selection hiring process that has been put forth by Robina, our HR consultant. So it's exciting to utilize new resources, and it's progressing nicely. So I just wanted to give council an update on that. And then also I just wanted to remind you, I did submit 2 invoice registers this evening for your consideration, because last council meeting I had not submitted that to the council members prior to the meeting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Council, anything for Eileen?
Eileen, have Christy post those pictures on our social media.
Good call. I'll certainly mention that to her. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Eileen. Moving on. City Administrator Stephanie, report done. Your administration duties.
Good evening. I think everybody touched on everything really great tonight. I just want to thank all the staff for all their hard work. We're really a lot of things going on here at City Hall and within the city of Chisholm. So I really appreciate all the work that's being done.
I think you could capitalize a lot, all 4 letters, pretty easily. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
Too much at times. Council, anything for Stephanie before we move on to the consent agenda? All right, consent agenda, list of bills Eileen just mentioned, she emailed over earlier. Airport Authority minutes, Museum of Mining minutes, Public Utilities Commission minutes, Pat Cassingham, the Redhead Winter Fat Biking and Snowshoe on Trails Communication, minutes of our previous city council meetings, October 6th, 2021 working session, October 13th, 2021 regular meeting, payroll and overtime. Council, could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second for that.
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion on the consent agenda? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, the consent agenda is approved. New business, Jess Davis. Structure of Chisholm Ambulance Service. Council, I don't need to remind you of this, but most of this stuff we thoroughly discussed on Monday night, so hopefully we whip through these pretty quick. But Jess, I'll turn these all over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just asking for approval of the ambulance structure as laid out in Monday's session for Chisholm Ambulance Service.
Also looking for a motion to approve the Chisholm Ambulance Service structure.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Diane. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Contract and proposal from Transmedic. Folks we heard from earlier tonight. I'm assuming just looking for approval to sign a contract with Transmedic, or have me sign it, I guess.
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that.
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion, council?
I just have a quick question for Buck. I just double checked your $15 per run and then the percentage. Is that pretty standard across the board of ambulance services in comparison to ours?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Councilor, some ambulance service, if you're talking about billing companies, some ambulance service billing companies charge just a flat rate. Others charge all percentage of charges. But for all of our clients, that's the same rate for all of them, for the ones we work with.
Thank you.
What is the percentage?
Mr. Mayor and Councilor, 2% of net revenue from the previous month collected.
Council, any other questions?
I just like to state briefly that when I was doing my research, there was 3 different billing companies that I talked to. 2 that I talked to. There's one that answered the phone. and that was Buck. So I definitely appreciate it. It's good to know that we're going to have someone that's going to be there when we call and we have questions and needs. So thank you for that very much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's kind of important. It doesn't always happen, Buck.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that's one thing we pride ourselves on is customer service.
Adam and I are both I'm a business owner and I don't know if he's a part business owner or his family owns a company, but getting phones answered sometimes can be interesting. Okay, Council, a motion of support to approve the contract with Transmedic. Any other discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Welcome aboard, Transmedic. Buck, Beth.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, we'll move on. Jess, I'll let you go through this one with the medical director again, just so that the community can hear what you're doing there. We all heard it, but.
Okay. And so I will be recommending this called the MJM Medical Direction Consortium Services, or MJMMD, as the consortium for our medical direction. I did get my hands on their contract, so I hope I'll be able to get that presented to you guys our next council meeting. This is with Dr. Julie Houle, who is currently a medical director for many of the agencies throughout our area, and in talking to other folks, and as well as speaking to her myself. Our visions seem very much aligned, and there's agreement across the board that we do what's in the best interest of the patient. She advocates. She's very active throughout the state and EMS. She is an EMT herself, and very aggressive. And I think she would do very, very well for our service in the city of Chisholm. But I'll be presenting that next meeting. Let's see, does anyone have any questions on that?
So what do we need to do on this item tonight?
This was just an informational item.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
It says that too, doesn't it? Okay, so let's move on. Thank you. Job description for EMT council, page 59 to 63. Obviously, we had an opportunity to talk about that on Monday night. If there are no questions at this point, I'd look for a motion to approve the job description for our EMTs, paid on call EMTs.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion, council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. On committee for hiring emergency medical technicians for our ambulance service. I would tend to lean towards leaving our current committee in place to do it. I don't know how the council feels about it. I don't know how the committee feels about it. But they brought us to this point. So, Jess, you got thoughts on that?
I am good with that as long as the members are good with that.
So who's on there again for over here?
It's Councilors Lance and Michelaraha, Chief Masucci, Chief Manor, Eileen, Stephanie, and myself.
Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Adam?
I believe that if just one counselor will do, I believe that Counselor Michelaraha can do just fine. Being the one that did kind of push this a long ways, my name has kind of been mud between some of the certain EMTs around there, both on social media and different aspects. And I would be very upset if someone applied and didn't get hired, and I was used as a reason. So I do not want to be part of that hiring process. because nothing about me would let that interfere. But I just wouldn't want someone be able to say something negatively in the community. So I'll make a motion that everyone but myself that's on the current committee move forward with the hiring.
Council, is there another counselor that wants to sit on that committee?
If you really want to, I guess I could do it, but I'd be fine with that motion too.
Just one council person or what?
Yeah, I mean, as long as Cheyenne's comfortable with that, I'm okay with it. But if you do want two on there, I would be happy to sit on it.
Cheyenne, I suppose we should ask you too.
I'm fine with it just being me as the council rep, that's, unless you really want two people, but.
I don't have a need for two. All right, so we made a motion to go with the hiring committee. That was the same as our committee, other than Councilor Lance will be stepping down. We have a second by Councilor Vaki. Council, further discussion on the committee? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. And the last item, advertise for emergency medical technicians positions. Jess, 3 weeks, or what are we thinking there?
Yes, I would like to get this posted ASAP, preferably even tomorrow, and run it for 3 weeks.
Council looking for a motion to post, advertise for those positions.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne, I believe. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question. Where is this being posted at?
Margaret, Stephanie, help us out.
Sure, we post in various different areas. Cheyenne, we do the local, Margaret's gonna probably have to follow up on some of this. We do Minnesota Works, the local newspaper. Sometimes we post at Star Trib, sometimes it's Duluth Trib, North Force, our Facebook pages. Am I missing anything, Margaret?
The League of Minnesota Cities.
Minnesota Cities. Indeed gets picked up.
A lot of places.
Awesome. Sounds like lots and lots of places for people to find these postings. Thank you.
I put a big one on the Jubilee Foods board. All right, we have motion and support. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, did I hear we're putting it on our Facebook page and our website as well?
That's correct. We always do that, Counselor Halverson.
We also do the automated sign, or the sign that's outside the city hall too.
And we also post within City Hall for any customers that do come in.
No further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. And motion carries. Jess, thank you for all of that. Let me just take a little step back here. Chief Manor, I didn't see that you were on this call with us. Did you get on late? He is on, isn't he? It says Vern up here.
I'm here. I'm here, sir.
How you doing? I just wanted to ask you if you had any report tonight. I didn't see you were on the call, and don't know if you were or not.
It's been a busy evening, so I got on a little late. But no, I do not have a formal report, sir. Unless there's questions.
Council, anything you need to address with the chief before we go back to where we belong? All right. Thanks, Vern.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on. Resolution resolution 1021-83. Accept grant funds from Iron Range Resources for demolition. Mandy?
Yes, Mayor and council members, I am just asking for approval of the resolution to accept the grant funds for demolition.
Council looking for motion to adopt resolution 1021-83 to accept the funds.
Mandy, I'll make that motion, but could you give us a amount that you got the grant for again?
Yes, there's actually two grants. One was for 18,000 and one was for 17,000. We did already approve that. We just, it is a little bit repetitive, but the IRRB does need these resolutions to accept the funds.
And I think our auditor wants us to do it in about 5 steps too.
Right.
So.
Support.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, April. Further discussion? Just say, Mandy, thank you for continuing to push on these things that need to come down and when there's no other options. So it's a good program, and I wish we were building houses as fast as we were tearing them down, but we're working on that next. So
we are. Thank you.
Yep. Any further discussion, council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicola Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. And motion carried. All right, thank you, man. We'll move on to Larry's items. Resolution 1021-84, accept donation for Mississippi flag. In honor of Mark and Suzanne Medford.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I'll try to be brief. I'm looking at the same council packet you are. A very nice letter, very happy to present to you. I'm not sure of the whole story behind Mark and Susan Medford, but very nice letter from Representative Sam Creekmore, the 4th, or is it the 9th? The 4th, frankly. And if it feels appropriate to you, I know Margaret's very busy, but maybe we draft a official thank you from the city and send off to them in their gracious donation. I'm not sure how they found us. I'm gonna guess that they Googled, Mississippi flag and seen some of the things in the newspaper or Facebook about how we took ours down when it was deemed not the official flag anymore, and then when we put it up immediately as we were able to get one to replace. So I can only speculate. I didn't have a lot of time to look into it, but I'm looking for your support on that, and they thank you when we can.
Okay, council motion to adopt resolution 1021-84 to accept that donation, and we'll prepare a letter to thank them for the donation, which I'll sign.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second?
Support.
Thank you, Travis. Further discussion?
It's pretty cool.
Very nice. Thank you.
I think we used to get one for some group would donate for a Finnish, was it the Finnish flag every year or something? They did for many years, I think. Some local organization.
Hey, Larry.
Oh, go ahead, Travis.
Now that this happened, have you ever considered putting out a blast about if you have a flag from a country that we display, or a state flag, if you're willing to donate it?
I haven't. It's a great idea, and I apologize if it was Tammy. I don't remember who it was, but if somebody had a great contact at a social studies class or something like that, and they could showcase the Bridge of Peace and ask states or some representative from states for a donated flag or something, being amazing. I have a funny story. I have a great story about the flags. If I could, I know the council packet's thick, but just briefly, if I could share. We had one incorrect flag, and don't quote me exactly. There's a lot of flags. I believe it was Republic of Russia changed from the just from Russia or something. And it was wrong. And even Billy John from Bark, which got the competitive quote, he said, well, just put it up for now until I get the right one, and then we'll just switch it out. No one will know the difference. 4 hours it was up, and I got a call that says, you have to remove that immediately. It's not the appropriate flag. And it wasn't. So we did. We went out and we did remove the flag. But people are very passionate about the flags, so they must be correct. And we would certainly take any donation towards them, So thank you. Thank you. Truly a lot of passion. Truly.
Further discussion on that item? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson,
Aye.
Counselor Michelarath,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
I,
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. And a motion carries. Resolution 1021-85, adopt utility rate study. This is more the rates council. Rate study, I believe Margaret emailed it to us on Monday or something, I believe.
Correct, Mayor. And then in your council packet, I think Clerk Keeley for putting this whatever they're together, this summary, thank you, of the rates through 2026. And really, I've studied the 36-page report. So any questions, although I forgot to report in my office and I'm at home, I will do the best I can to answer any questions. But this is really what it takes to run the water, sewer, and garbage business. So with that, you've gotten a 36-page report, the summary in your council packet, and I look forward to any conversation. We've had meetings with Administrator Strava and Clerk Treasurer Za about that. We want to put this on the website, and so people can view it. They have the actual information. You can review the facts and data for everybody. It truly is what it is. So I look forward to conversation about it.
Council, so we'd be looking for a motion to adopt the, before I ask for this, obviously if something drastic happens next year, or something like that, this can change. So what we're really adopting is what happens in 22 more than anything, right?
Yeah. We're adopting the rate study that we paid for, and it really showcases the whole business. You're right. God willing, there's nothing spectacular or dramatic that's going to happen. Something unexpected. We have insurance for say vandalism or natural disaster, that type of thing. But really, it really showcases how we're going to run the business for the next 5 years. Pending any dramatic ups and downs, this is really what it looks like. And this is, we look to come with a savings balance at the end of 2026 in all accounts, per recommendation from the auditors and our friends at Baker Tilly there that did the study for us.
Okay. April, did you have a question?
yes, Mr. Mayor, before I can actually make a formal decision, which this has nothing to do with you, Larry, or anything. I think this is great for the rate schedule, but I would like to see 2020, 2021 utility rates compared to 2022 through 2026. And I'd like to see a schedule adjusted amounts for each year for the sewer fee, the water fee, the refuse fee, and the storm sewer. There's not a total amount given on these years of the increase of on each scheduled section. For me to make that decision to approve this, I think I need that information. But I think approving, yes, to pay the bill to Baker and Tilly, absolutely. With this rate study, I feel that I don't think it's I'm not ready to approve it yet.
Or isn't the previous years are in the rate study, aren't they? I don't.
It is, I believe, on page 35, and that's the conclusion and summary, which I apologize. I thought, Counselor Fountain, it was in this summary as well. I can speak to one because I built it from the ground up, was the refuse, which is garbage. And right now, it is $10.41 a month base rate, and it goes to $10.72. So 29 cents. I apologize, 31 cents increase for 2022. If somebody I truly mine's my office, and page 35, I believe, could be 34. It has each water, I believe, was like $14.97, and the base rate goes to $16.11. Just over $1 was at 47 cents. And sewer, I believe, was slightly up. Was it $14.73 to $15.24, like a 70-cent, not quite $1 increase for 2022.
Barry, what page did you think it was on?
34.
35.
Thank you. 35, Mayor.
34, yeah, it starts at 34. It's on. It breaks it down starting in 2021 and then all the way up to 2026.
Can you just give us those numbers, Steph? So I don't have to dig through my email.
I'm gonna make sure I have this right too. Hold on one second here.
Yeah, it's on page 38, Stephanie. Maybe you could share your screen.
I can do that. I can share my screen of the rate study and then you can, that would work. Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 minute here.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
Hey, Larry, while she's doing that, I just have to say that I was very impressed with the rate study. I thought it was phenomenal information. I'm happy that we're going to post it on the website for other people to see it, so they don't immediately just yell at us for things like this. I think that's really good, and I have no problem approving this, but it's phenomenal information.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll add to that. Yeah, in the 36-page document, it describes everything that we want to do in the whole 10-year plan. And there's nothing there. There's no fluff. There's nothing, we're not building new water plants anywhere or such like that. So, yeah. So the base rate, if we could see there, just because you asked the question, the base rate right now for water up to 2,330 gallons is right now $14.22. And I apologize, $14.65.
Correct.
Increasing to $16.11. So slightly less than $1.50 a month. The sewer rate right below it, $24.84 to $25.59. It's about 70 cents, 72 cents a month. And then the garbage, which I know is $10.41, increasing to $10.32 next year. 31-cent difference.
72 cents.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think, I don't know if anybody would be surprised to see a slight increase in rates. The price of milk, the price of gas, the price of everything right now is up, and which makes us, we have to run the business accordingly. So all of the material, all of the supply, all of the consumables that we take in and use, and wages go up. So
it's under $3 per month increase is what we're looking at.
Yeah. So on your utility bill, on the base rates, because we have to go by rate because we don't know usages. If your neighbor uses 8 dumps a month and has 2 garbage cans. So as Administrator Scrupp does state, it's about $3 a month increase going from 21 to 22 for utility rates.
So what are you looking for? We're looking for a motion to adopt resolution 1021-85 to adopt utility rate study,
Correct, Mayor.
which would essentially increase the rates for our first year, next year.
Well, I think we're adopting the rate study, so if nothing significant happens, that we adopt the rates through 2026. But the council always and forever has the authority to change that from year to year. So I think we present, as I see Attorney Lindsay shaking his head, we present every year at budget season like we always do, the next year's proposed rates. So.
Yeah, because we have to approve the Public Utilities Commission's rates when they get to us. That's one of the last things we do as part of our budget cycle. So council, we're looking for a motion to adopt a utility rate study.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that. Thank you, Adam. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marty.
a little confusing. We're approving the study or we're approving these rates because there's the motion is to approve the study, but the resolution says we're approving the rate service fees. Does this mean we're jumping into this fee schedule or are we just approving Baker Tilly's report?
So if I could back up, Mayor, if I just briefly look at the request, I believe it was to also. Wrong page, I apologize. It's also to include this year's rate, so deputy or clerk treasurers can get those budgets amended and get those to us, and so then we will send those budgets to you, Councilor Alverson, and the council for final approval. So we would like to include this rate in next year's 2022 budgets to send to council.
For calendar year 2022 only or for the whole 5-year period?
Correct. Right now it's 2022. We will bring the same rate back to you next year if nothing drastic happens for approval as well.
Mr. Mayor, I would request an amendment to the motion that the rates are only effective for 2022.
Okay, that's fair. Who made the motion? Travis?
I'll amend that motion to include that it's for the fiscal year 22.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Travis. Thank you for catching that, Marty. Because, yeah, we do need to look at them every year in case things change for some reason, so. Further discussion on that item? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye, because it's only agreed to 2022. Thank you for the clarification.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki. Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Mayor Baker, Tilly, additional work for the 5-year utility rate study.
Thanks, everybody. Deputy Clerk and Treasurer Zah actually made the recommendation to wait to release the study until we had actual data, which is good advice, especially for discussion tonight. We want real and accurate information to include the audited 2020 report. So this is the additional cost that we paid towards those numbers. So looking for your support to pay that invoice. And because of the amount it automatically goes to council, of course.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Council discussion. Margaret?
Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Job description for lead building maintenance parks, new Larry Pervenanzi.
Correct. Thank you, everyone. In front of you is the hot off the press edited job description for the lead buildings, parks and maintenance person. Larry is retiring. We have his paperwork, and I have edited it to basically mimic the work that we're doing now. And with the campground we've added, and with a possible new public safety building, the work has changed, and we've added a janitor since then. So I have had zero negative feedback from the ASME union. We presented it to them as well, and I look for your support for the job description.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to approve the job description.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that.
Or
Thank you, Adam. Council, further discussion?
Larry, quick question. What is your wage that you're proposing?
It's the labor grade 1 in the ASME contract. I believe it's like $29.64 an hour. And then after the first year, I think it moves to slightly over $30.
Thank you very much.
Also further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Helmerson,
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki. Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Appoint committee to hire lead buildings, maintenance, parks. Obviously, we want to put Larry on there. You got a recommendation, Larry?
If I just slightly add, Mayor, I expect an internal candidate for the job. And as we work through the new policy revisions and such with our consultant, Rovina, and then working with Administrator Scraba, even on an internal posting, which we have never done since I've been on, it still renders an interview, which we all agree upon that the person would meet the minimum qualifications, and we make offer to the position, even though it's internal. And like I say, that's new, but it's the right way to do it. So even if there's internal position, we would hope to have this committee ready to go. So who's ever willing and able, Mayor, is fine. Usually 2 counselors, and then we always bring in folks that we feel we would need if we see that.
So I haven't been on a committee on any of these for a long time. I'd be happy to serve on this one. Looks like it's going to be a little more extensive because we're probably going to be, it looks like we're moving somebody and then we're going to have to post, but it's fine with me. Anyone else? You think Larry should be on there with you? I know it's
Yes.
Okay. Larry and Larry?
Larry, Mayor Champa, another counselor, perhaps, if somebody interested.
Yeah, let's not get too, we're doing a lot of this right now, a lot of committees and stuff. So
Correct.
unless another council person wants to serve,
Department head, perhaps, Mayor.
Yeah, what about Tammy?
Tammy'd be good.
Tammy, you on still?
I see her on. She's probably trying to hit that mute button right now.
No, she don't want to talk. She's hiding out. So I'll serve with Larry, and like I said, I steer around Stephanie. Stephanie could be on every board, but she's got way bigger fish she's frying every day. So
I'm sorry.
Once we get the department head on this is good. Tammy, you want to serve on this board with Larry and me?
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion for that?
I'll make that motion. Mary, Larry Polsted, Larry Bourbonanzi, and Tammy. Anyone else as you see fit?
Did you get me on there?
Mayor, you were first.
Oh, all right. Second for Adam's motion.
Support.
Thank you, Travis. Further discussion, council? Okay.
Counselor Helverson,
Aye.
Counselor Michala Raha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carried. Post for lead building maintenance parks position. Larry, I'm assuming we're posting internally and externally, or?
We're gonna put, I truly believe there's interest, within mayor, so at this time, I would propose that we, we post internally for the 10 days and then externally if needed. And I would even propose an interview date and time for internal candidates. Of the, November 8th at 2:30 PM. At City Hall. That allows me time, if that candidate is qualified and accepts the position, we could hire them to replace that person.
So, what do you do? Let's say one of your truck drivers takes the position.
Right.
What do you do then? So we post for a truck driver then, or what do we do?
I believe we have to come back to council. I could get clarification on that, from Attorney Lindsay. I don't know. This has not happened to me before, Mayor.
Attorney Lindsay, are you still on tonight?
Absolutely, Mayor. Larry's gut feeling is correct. So if we filled one position, it would create a new vacancy. We would have to treat that vacancy as all other vacancies.
So we'll have to come back to council with that, Mayor. If we deem the person is qualified and accepts the position at that time, we'll have to come back to council for approval to repost.
But we have 30 days. AFSCME union would have 30 days for that position before you can repost.
Say that again. What does that mean?
If somebody internally posts into the position, they have 30 days to go back to their old job.
They get to try it, Mayor.
There's like a 30-day trial period, so you wouldn't repost until after that's done. Correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Lindsay.
That's correct.
It's a terrible time to have to do this with winter coming, but I guess you could pull that person anyway, couldn't you, Larry?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, I think in a need situation like this, we'll run the same staffing and the way we have been. And basically the person just gets an upgrade in pay, which is 90 cents an hour. So it is unfortunate. It's cost doing business, so I'm used to it.
So I'm okay with what you're recommending, Larry. My concern would be, so we would have to wait the whole 30 days, huh? So we couldn't, let's say somebody took the position and we accepted them on November 8th. We could not take it up on November 10th to post their job, huh? We got to wait a whole month.
Yes, that's correct.
So we're going to be down a person for half the winter. All right. So your motion is to post internally for the position and
externally if needed. There's always that check.
And if somebody internally takes it, we'll have our committee meeting on November 8th at 2:30 p.m. to review the candidate.
Correct, to get that clock rolling. Absolutely, thank you.
Hey, can I ask a clarifying question? So, in the event that they don't take the position, we would have to then repost it for an additional 10 days externally because we're not posting it externally, correct?
And we actually do 14 days at minimum.
Minimum is 3 weeks typically.
So is it here on the side of caution? Would it make more sense to just post it both or no?
Because of the cost and the interest, the interest I'm hearing, I don't think I don't.
Okay, all right. Just want to clarify.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion we're looking for is to post internally, externally if need be. And if somebody takes applies for the internal posting, we'll meet November 8th at 2:30 to review them. So,
correct.
Somebody make that motion. please.
I'll make the motion to post internally only at this time.
It has to be internal, external,
Internal, external if needed, correct.
right?
Thank you.
Internal, external if needed. Sorry for the language.
Second.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, April. Anything else, Council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mickleraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Larry, your last item, utility connection permit to include supporting documentation and pictures.
Correct. I'll promise to make this one easy on you. Right now, currently when they get, folks get a permit from building official Galley, that there's no follow-up. We request follow-up with pictures or documentation of the connection to our water and sewer utilities. And she will put that on the permit with your permission. And then have it documented against the property forever and always.
So you're looking for a motion to add that to the permit so that we have that documentation.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor.
I totally agree, Mr. Mayor, on this, and this is a great asset for when people purchase their homes. So I'll make that motion.
Thank you, April. Second for that.
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion, Council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mickleraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Larry, thank you. We'll move on.
Thank you, everyone.
Fire Chief Chris quotes to purchase a skid pump and tank unit with money received from fighting fires in the Greenwood Township, I think, or something, or Greenwood Fire, or something like that.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor, Council. We're fortunate enough to go and help fight that Greenwood fire back in August. We were up there for 5 days, and for those efforts, the city, the fire department got reimbursed $17,223.04 for us being up there. I guess for us, I'm looking because it could have came for a better time. We have a piece of equipment that went down last year in our skid pump unit. It's used to fight wildland fires. And we're actually, me and Jason were thinking of, see if we can get it in our budget for next year. But unfortunately, the Greenwood fire happened. But fortunately enough for us, we were able to send people up there and make some money, I guess you could say. So I guess I'm looking for council approval to spend that money. We got 2 bids on the new skid, and take the lowest bid and be able to purchase that, get our truck back up and running.
So the low bid's 15,400 plus about 900 shipping, 16,300. Council, I think this is a great use of that money. Fire department brought in for fighting fires, and I think saves it out of our budget as well. Although it's, once it gets here, it's in the bank already in the city's budget. So I'd look for a motion to allow the fire department to purchase that skid pump.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second?
Support. Great job, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks for the guys that went.
Further discussion, Council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mickleraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on, Jim, pay application number 5 for 3rd Street Northwest Improvement Project.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'll try and keep it very brief. Basically, the summary is provided on my request for council action on page 86, and you'll find that same detail then on page 88 on that pay application form that we've reviewed in previous months. But basically, as you see on page 86, the total work completed to date is just under $960,000. We are still retain 5% retainage, which is just under $48,000. We've made previous payments on pay applications 1 through 4 of $667,238.77. So what's due at this point is $243,836.17, and I would recommend that for your approval. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, questions for Jim, or you'd be looking for a motion to approve the pay request? Jim, I'm before the council. Any concerns that we may end up with a huge liquidated damages here and we don't have enough retainage to cover that in our warranty? That'd be my reluctance. I just,
basically, I think that $48,000 that we've got in retainage right now, and that'll increase as we go forward with other pay applications. I hope there isn't liquidated damages of that much, though it could be. So at $1,500 per day, but that is part of what will come back for negotiations. But I guess my expectation is that the retainage will more than cover anything that we might want to retain as liquidated damages.
okay.
Jim,
Go ahead, Travis.
I was up there today. I did a drive-through today. My question to you would be, are we going to end up seeing an increase in this by a change order? Because I'm not sure that, based on what I was looking at today, if there's 7, after we pay this today, I'm not sure there's enough, that the amount of work that's needed up there and the amount of money we have left to pay them is going to add up.
Quite frankly, because we had basically had no or very little boulder and ledge rock removal. I expect basically we're going to probably save somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000 from the $1.6 million that was bid.
Well, that's even better to hear. Perfect. Thanks.
Jim, how much is left on this project to pay after this pay request, not counting a retainage? Do we know?
It's primarily in the paving and the turf restoration, really, and some aggregate, of course, in the geogrid fabric. I'm guessing probably about $250,000. I don't know for sure, Matt. I'll put that together and have it for you at the next meeting.
All right.
Bid was $1.624 million, and I expect it to be at $1.2 million or a little bit less than that.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do, Jim. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Council, we're looking for a motion to release that pay application number 5 for the 3rd Street Northwest Improvement Project in the amount of $243,836.17. Is that correct, Jim? The bottom right number, right?
Yes, the 243 something. Yeah. I think Travis made the motion.
Did you make a motion, Travis?
I didn't, but I will.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'll make the motion to pay application number 5 for the 3rd Street Northwest project in the amount of $243,836.17 whole cents.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that?
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikula-Rogoff.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Jim, just a side note, the last time I was this upset about a project, I charged Joey Sopp $30,000. So keep pushing them.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
The last liquidated damages I heard in Chisholm 20 years ago. We'll move on, Marty. Payment to Rock Solid for improvements to roller derby trail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the course of the summer and the work that Rock Solid has done out there, the work on roller derby trail was done before we had the heavy rains in September. In fact, they were just kind of wrapping it up when the rains started coming, but then after they let rain more and more and more, and then there's one segment of trail that was built with clay. It was originally built with clay, and they kind of reworked it. And that section of trail had to be closed due to the wet clay conditions. And so they were actually under budget at that point by about 3 to 4 days. They had beat their estimates. And so they agreed to come back to do some capping and drainage work. However, they felt that, the 3 to 4 days they had left was probably not going to be enough, and they were probably going to need another day or so to make sure the work got done. So the $3,000 estimate is to give them about one more additional day to try and wrap up their project for this year. That is the request.
Council looking for a motion to pay that $3,000 Rock Solid to let them wrap that up.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
April, second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank Marty because the rest of us would not have been able to do what you've done and be down there and involved in this stuff. So really thank you for doing that on our behalf.
You're welcome. It's been a lot of work. Took a lot longer than I thought, but it's good work. I get to ride my mountain bike out there to check on them. So it's not too bad.
I want to know what I'm looking for, so even if I had the time. So it's good to have you down there, Marty.
Being a mountain biker and an engineer is a good combination for these trails.
Doesn't hurt, does it? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Marty. We'll move on to Brian's item that turned in about 4 here. Resolution number 1021-86, approving State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement for Police Department and City Attorney for State Court Administration Bureau of Criminal Apprehension e-charging system. Brian, I'll just turn this one right over to you.
Thanks, Mayor. Part of what I do for the city is I do the misdemeanor and some gross misdemeanor level prosecutions. It's a lot of traffic, some domestic assaults, DUIs, things like that. And in order to do that, I have to have access to the state's e-charging system so that I can send my paperwork through directly to the courts and retrieve certain information. And what they require is from time to time, we renew the agreements or the authority that the city gives me to go in and do that on your behalf. And so essentially that is what I'm asking is that that the council approve that resolution authorizing those agreements so that I can continue to be designated as a city attorney for prosecution purposes.
Council looking for a motion to adopt resolution number 1021-86.
I'll make that motion. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, April. Second for that.
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion, council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicolaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Next item's under Brian. We received these in a couple of different times today, but we have a purchase agreement for the Long Years Ambulance Garage that we intend to purchase. We have a leaseback agreement. We have a resolution to go along with it. Brian, can you just walk us through what the motions we need here are, please?
Sure, Mayor. And so I'll give just a little bit of information why there were a couple of waves of documents. There were some original documents prepared, and then I did have contact with counsel for Long Year, and we worked on a couple of little items to help improve the agreement so we wouldn't be back or run into additional issues. And so the first action that we're looking for, the council has already authorized the acquisition of that ambulance, the garage for the ambulance. And what we need to do is kind of paper it over now, and that's the resolution and purchase agreement combination. And I would note that there were two changes on the purchase agreement from the original that went out. Those two changes, the first change was, and these are underlined in the most recent version, there was some language added underneath that related to the personal property, indicating that instead of just a blanket buy for all the personal property that was there, that there would be certain property that we would receive as just a blanket buy, and then there would be some personal property that wasn't included in that list that we would have to negotiate a bill of sale for as we move in. And that's a lot of the consumable supplies and some of the equipment that's owned by the ambulance service. The indication given to me was that there's no objection to us acquiring that property and taking it on, but that the sellers of the property really didn't have enough information to really give us a good idea of what it's worth or what they'd be asking for it. And so with that, what we're looking for is a resolution authorizing the sale, incorporating the terms of the purchase agreement, and directing the staff to follow through and close that sale with an anticipated close date of November 1st.
Okay, council, we'd be looking for a motion to adopt resolution 1021-88. I think I have the right number, and the purchase agreement that goes along with it. To allow staff to move forward with that purchase. That be correct, Brian? Okay.
Motion.
Thank you, Marty. Support. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Marty. Further discussion on that item?
Can you give me that resolution number one more time?
I wrote down 1021-88. I don't know where I found it on an email today, I think, and I wrote it. Yeah, let me just look. I got it right here. Yeah, it's 1021-88. Margaret emailed it out at 3:54 today.
Yeah, thank you. I just didn't print it, so.
Yep, no problem. Okay, we have motion and support. Further discussion, council.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say one thing. I really wish we would have had an idea of how much the personal property to obtain for our ambulance department. So you could just have more of an idea. Is this gonna be another 100,000, another 200,000, more dollars, you know?
April, so let me, obviously, Stephanie and Jess and I talk all the time because I'm in City Hall quite a bit. Basically, today we agreed to purchase the ambulance service. Couple things happened. Joe Surdich wanted to know because Jess and Stephanie had been talking to them about transitioning. And he was, the purchase was important to him because then he knew what the discussion was about transitioning. So that discussion happened after, at least everybody knows where they're transitioning. The other part of it, yes, I would agree with you. The other discussion I had with Steph and Jess is we got to figure out what in that ambulance garage would be considered city property and what isn't as soon as we can, because obviously everything in there for all practical purposes, we need to run the ambulance service. So, unfortunately, some of this can't happen until we made some of these other decisions. So they're trying to put together that list. I think it's probably just about ready. I know Joe put Roland on that a number of weeks ago already. So we should, I would hope by next council meeting we understand. This lease will help a little bit. The $1,500 certainly doesn't hurt anything. I think that's what the number is that we're going to talk about next. But yeah. But yeah, it's such a quick moving thing that we can only get so much information out at a time. But I agree with you, and it is the next most important question right now. Don't see any other discussion on that item. Carter?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Micula Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Okay, last item for Brian here, council, you have a lease agreement, trying to close on, November 1st or be closed by November 1st. So, the lease agreement was forwarded us because we would need to lease the garage back to Longyear for the final month. Came out, about 1 o'clock today. We have the lease agreement Margaret sent out. Any changes to this thing, Brian?
Mayor, funny you should mention that. It did go through with the proof. There's some cleanups from some typos and some additional commas that have been put in. Everybody did a great job of getting it cleaned up. This was something that came around or was put together pretty quickly. Basically, the important features to hit the high points. Rent is going to be $1,500 a month for the 2 months. The term of the lease is to go till the end of that Longyear medical transportation agreement, or until January 15th, whichever is sooner. The idea there being, if we get caught in some kind of a kerfluffle or something hangs up right at December 31st, we'll have a cushion to transition us into January, but we have a hard cutoff point. And assuming everything is as it should be, and the transportation agreement, the Longyear ambulance service agreement cancels on December 31st, so too does this lease. The one item that may stick out to you, the city, once we close on November 1st, the city would be responsible for paying utilities. Other than that, the other key feature that was built in here is an access provision that allows the city, upon reasonable notice, to enter the garage to make sure that we can have access to the space for purposes of doing our planning and making arrangements in order for that transition to happen smoothly. And then finally, with regard to maintenance, typical breakdown, they're responsible for kind of making sure things stay in a good condition. The city, obviously, as a landlord at that point, would be responsible for major structural or mechanical type issues. And so with that, I can try and answer any additional questions the council may have.
I'm not sure I like that we're paying utilities. It's probably $1,500 a month.
Mayor, the one other thing that I can add is, again, I did have contact with counsel for Longyear Inc. And based on what we had discussed, I'm confident that these terms would be acceptable to them. And if the council approves it, that we would have a good agreement.
Council thoughts? Now we're looking for a motion to approve the lease agreement for that 2 months. I guess if it was 2 years, I'd look at it different, but trying to just get everything, get it changed over, I guess.
Make the motion, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
Ryan, was there any talk about the utilities?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councilor Vaki, there was, and the position, as I understood it, was a hard position on the part of the sellers. Well, on the part of the tenants at this point.
Yeah. All right.
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Micula Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. We'll move on. Eileen, resolution number 1021-87, appoint trustee for 457 deferred comp plan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. With the transition of Stephanie Scraba into the permanent city administrator role, it's time to get her on this deferred comp plan and remove the mayor. And this resolution is to do that. So we're hoping the council will agree to this so we can get this paperwork done and move forward. Thank you.
Council motion to adopt resolution 1021-87. Clean that up.
Motion.
Thank you, Travis. Second for that.
Or
Thank you, Adam. Further discussion, council? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson,
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Eileen. Moving on to Stephanie's item, St. Louis County Fire Protection Agreement for Unorganized Township 59-21. Chris, Adam, you probably know more about this. This is like up in Dewey Lake area and stuff up there, right?
I believe it is on the unincorporated Brown Township, south of French there.
Okay. Council, I think we saw this earlier because we actually told them we wanted like the 3% increase or whatever, which this reflects. So I'm here for a motion to adopt or to approve this agreement with St. Louis County.
make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that.
Second, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson,
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Baki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, city employees eligibility for on-call occasional seasonal laborers. So Stephanie, remind me, this has to do with our EMT service, whether or not city employees are allowed to serve on there, correct?
Mr. Mayor, this actually would encompass EMT employees, volunteer fire, any casual employees such as folks through the Parks and Rec. That would be skating attendants, the youth center, anything like that. That would be an additional employment outside of their normal full-time employment.
So, Council, the reason this is in front of you is because there's different roles. If we have, say, a full-time city employee that's serving on as an on-call EMT, the pay rate for them can be considerably different than a normal EMT as outlined in our job description earlier tonight. Brian, can you talk a little bit to help us with that on how the laws work on that a little bit so the council understands a little more?
Sure, Mayor, and I'll try to be quick, but I'll try and get through and just kind of get the high points of the issues and then get a little bit about what's happening here. So there's a number of different issues that arise anytime you've got a city employee, a regular full-time city employee performing multiple positions. And the big issue becomes how those positions interact under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so in today's world, it's hard to have a real true volunteer. Even if you're not receiving a paycheck, if you receive uniforms, if you receive, certain other things that we don't really a lot of times think of as compensation, you're still considered paid on call, which is how we operate. And what you run into is a situation where overtime happens quickly because you've got somebody working a full week, and then once they're engaged in additional work for the city, that time is also counted against the overtime calculation, and the overtime calculation gets complicated, and it causes some issues with budgets. So for example, using the paid on call model with a firefighter or with an EMT, if they're holding a regular position, say they work in the public works department, you first run into questions about whether they can be called away to a fire or to an emergency from their regular position. If that happens, instead of being paid what they would in their EMT or on-call firefighter role, they're paid their normal wage as if they were still working in the public works department. Then when you get into the overtime issue, overtime is presumed to be in those positions a weighted average of the two different pay grades. And so with the fire department, with the paid on-call firefighters, you can see how this would become an issue if you've got an individual who's making 29 or 30 bucks an hour in the garage, and the firefighters responding to a call make significantly less than that. All of a sudden, you put somebody out at a fire who's going to be paid out of the fire budget, who's going to be earning the weighted average of 30 bucks in the firefighter wage, and then applied to a time and a half calculation, and it's going to have to come out of the fire department's budget because they're going to be paying that firefighter to be out on the call. And so that makes it difficult to control rates of pay, overtime accumulation, and it can create some real quick burdens on the budgets. And so that's kind of a real high level overview of where that issue comes in.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Marty.
I have a question for Brian.
Yes, sir.
So, being an EMT or firefighter or skating rink attendant does not fall under Ask Me job description. So if these persons are taking a second city job that does not fall under Ask Me or MAPE, how are they being subject to these rules about payment?
Because they're when they're engaged in both positions, they're engaged in service to the city, and so both positions' time counts as boots on the ground time for calculation of overtime under Fair Labor Standards.
Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
Brian, a question I was going to ask, and it is not up to the employee whether or not they sign off on that. It's just they have to accept those federal government rules.
Correct to an extent, Mayor. There are certain agreements that you can enter into ahead of time that can help clarify some of the overtime issues. I mean, an employee would have to agree to accept overtime at a straight rate of one position or the other, but even there, what you're not avoiding is that if you have a regular full-time employee, essentially anytime they're engaged to their secondary position, it's going to create overtime. And say you have a firefighter that gets called out on a Tuesday early in the work week. All of a sudden, you're going to put that employee into overtime at the end of the week when they're working their primary city position. So it creates a lot of overtime issues.
Brian, does this include weekends?
Correct. It applies to all hours accumulated during a standard work week. So Monday to Saturday.
Okay, so if we have an employee who works 40 hours, then they pick up I don't remember how many hours shift Jess is scheduling, but they pick up one each day on the weekend. We're paying that person at an overtime rate. And then on top of that, if they get called out as a second rig, we would be paying them even a higher rate. Is that accurate?
Right. And so, say for the individual that picks up one shift on each of the weekend days, I'd ask Eileen or Stephanie to correct me if I'm wrong. So essentially what they do is they create an overtime day on Saturday for that first shift. And then the second day would be the beginning of a new work week, so it would push their final shift of the week to an overtime shift theoretically, or to overtime hours. And so then in that case you could potentially run into the issue of the hybrid calculation for overtime.
So I guess my next question would be to Jess. Did you did you plan for any of this in the budget?
I did not, because, there's gonna be a lot of variables. I personally am not quite sure how I would plan for that, since I don't know, a specific EMT's other wages and how that blended rate would work, what that amount would be, and plus we have the variability of hours. I don't know when a call is going to occur. So that kind of limits things. There's just a lot of unknowns going into it.
To Councilor Rocky, we would have to take into consideration, it would have to be budgeted also into the Parks and Rec budget, and fire too, because all those departments would come into consideration. It would be across the board.
So the recommendation in a weird way is that this is not a very good thing to do to allow a city employee to be firefighter and EMT or work summer work or whatever we're doing. Parks and Recs.
I have a question.
And
Brian, so let's cover the EMT. So $12.50 an hour, they sign off, say I'll take time and a half at $12.50 an hour. They work an 8-hour shift, they don't get any calls, they don't get time and a half, right? They would just get the $12.50. But if they did engage in an active call, then they would get $18.75 an hour.
Correct. If they're on call, so if they're reasonably able to go about their daily activities, and can reasonably expect to do that, so truly on call, then that does not count as boots on the ground time against the overtime calculation. Okay. It's when you get engaged into an active role.
Okay, and I think we've kind of established that an active EMT call, typical for the city of Chisholm, they've got it down to about an hour. So it's not like it's many hours in the day, 600 a year. The odds of the employees working that many hours. Fire department side, $14 an hour. They show up and do maintenance. They show up to trainings, or they're become business meeting. They're getting $14 an hour. Is that correct? And then if we have an actual fire call, they would be making $21 an hour.
No, trainings, business meetings, those are things they're compelled to attend on behalf of the city. And so those are considered boots on the ground time.
Okay. I would also like to just clarify that a heavy month for hours in the fire department could possibly be 20 hours. Anyone that goes to any city employee, any city councilor, anyone who goes to the League of Minnesota Cities, areas cannot believe that our city employees are not allowed to be firefighters. We run on a paid on call department. When you have a fire on a Tuesday in the middle of the day, the majority of your members are at work. That's very typical across the nation for your city employees to be engaged, to live in town, to be part of the fire department. I believe it was a big mistake when the last council, I'm not sure how long ago did this, but I know it was before we got on here. Mr. Coffett, Urbananzi were both on there, and it's a very good thing to have in our city. I know if my family was at home in the middle of the day and somebody was trapped upstairs, I would not want to be waiting however long it takes him to get here if nobody's around to answer that call. I think this is something that deserves a little more investigating and research and educating, but it is not typical what Chisholm does.
Mr. Mayor, why does it say on the memo that it is not common practice to have city employees work beyond the full-time positions, if that's the case?
it's not right now. I think Chisholm changed it at some point.
That's correct, for the city of Chisholm, because it's not common practice.
So my biggest thing is just looking at the ambulance service. I think we're trying to get EMTs for 12 plus an hour, and you could be on an ambulance with somebody else that's making considerably more than you to do this exact same thing. I don't know how that sits, I guess, to me. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The only thing that one person did wrong is they work for the county or for a private company, and the other one works for the city, so they get paid more. It sits wrong with me a little bit, but and then obviously I can tell you I'm concerned about the budget too, but you know you hate to with trying to get people to be firefighters, EMTs and whatnot, you would tend to definitely hear what Counselor Lance is saying as well, because I do know that there was a time in Chisholm where there were a number of, Don Hankey was a firefighter, Larry Pervenanzi was a firefighter, Rich Coffey was a firefighter. There were a lot of them over the years, so I don't know.
Mayor, could I add one more thing?
Yes, Brian.
Just out of fairness, the one thing, and I think that just so the council has a little bit more of the information. The one other item is if you have a city employee, and this comes to mind just because we mentioned, Councilor Lance mentions your fire on a Tuesday afternoon. When those events occur and you have a city employee who's on their regular shift, it's up to the discretion of the management whether they can leave their regular shift to attend a fire or an emergency. It's not an automatic compulsory response. It would be when you have a paid on call position, they would have to confirm with management that they're able to leave their position.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, that's one of the things where, it could be abused. We have a lot of mutual aid calls to Hibbing where, a city employee shouldn't be dropping what they're doing to go, be backup somewhere. But, you're really pushing somebody who could be passionate about what they're doing and helping and serving inside the community, and also looking to go be employed at a city that offers a great wage and it's a very nice benefit to their family. If we lose a firefighter because he wants to be a city employee that's going to make $30 an hour and have nice health care and coverage and a career position, but he's got to leave something that he's very passionate or she is very passionate about, I think that's a disservice to them and to the community.
Councilor Lance and others there, I'd be, if I didn't say something, it would be, not representing some talk in the shop or talk amongst employees. This is, when it comes to equalization of overtime in the ASME contract, this is a very slippery slope when it comes to employees having to work together, employees running off on a job to do another job. I understand Councilor Lance's points more so. I was on the fire department. I know how it works. I know how hard it is to get volunteers, and what Jess is going through right now, hoping that she gets these amount of volunteers and these people that want to do this. There's a reason why there's rules in place and they get these overtime hours, and why, generally speaking, the city made a stance against it, because other city employees were doing this and it just didn't work in the shop. It just didn't work in the workplace. I don't know if it's Chisholm as a culture, as the size of Chisholm. If we had 500 employees, would it be as big a deal? Probably not. Being at the size we are, maybe it has something to do with it, but it is, it could be a very big problem in a very small, Chisholm. So I just want to share that there's that side of it as well.
Does this have to be an all or none, Brian? I mean, because the way I look at it, for example, the EMT service, okay, you're a paid on-call employee. If a person that worked for the city wanted to do it and we allowed it, we could never schedule them during city time if we wanted to, which then only really throws them into a weird category on an actual call, I think, correct? Fire department's a little bit different because you can get a fire call at any time, so that's a little bit harder to regulate would be the word. So, I mean, can these be taken up as separate items?
Mayor, as a legal matter, they could, but what we should do, and I think what I understood the agenda item is we're looking to develop a citywide policy. And it's a matter of consistency, whether we do it for one category of employees or not other categories. We would have to be careful how it's implemented.
Mayor, that's my concern, is just keeping consistency across the board.
Can I ask one more question? Dan, so there are, obviously, most places are paid on call in one form or fashion. If this was something, could we formulate where a branch of our fire department to be volunteer? No pay for maintenance, no pay for calls, no pay. You are strictly showing up out of your passion to come and be a volunteer member of the community.
Mayor, if I may, Councilor Lance, as a purely legal matter, it's possible. It gets tricky though, and it's difficult to maintain because even things like paying for trainings, paying for licensure, those sorts of things can be considered compensation such that they become paid on call. So it's just something we've got to be very careful about.
Okay, but if you weren't paying them an hourly wage, you wouldn't have to pay them in overtime, correct?
Correct. If they were true volunteers, it wouldn't create an overtime issue.
So Brian, well, I guess mayor, council, this is kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm concerned a little bit about this, but my concern is more on the weekends, I guess, than anything else, because clearly if they get called out, they're going to be making significantly more than the partner sitting next to them. And so that is a concern of mine. I can't deny that. So we would have to discuss that further. And I would also like to see Jess maybe inflate your budget a little bit to cover if this is approved, because the last thing that we need is to be short significantly in the ambulance budget when we give our reports at the end of the year. So those would be my two main concerns at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything we can really discuss. I mean, if we allow a city employee to be an EMT, the only thing we can do is hope they don't get called ever. They could end up on every one of our 800 calls. They could end up on, if it just happens to hit their schedule, and there ain't nothing we can do except pay them the extra money, right? Right. So that's that. The reason I was trying to separate the fire department from the EMT is just because, to me, it's a whole different deal. It's a whole different deal, because EMTs, you sort of know when you're on call. Fire department, it's when your radio goes off, and you get a half a dozen men or women working for Larry, and all their pagers go off because we have a fire in town. He ain't getting any work done, and we're paying him more than all the rest of the firefighters that responded to. So I hate that we have a situation where we have an employee that falls in this category right now today. I would tend to vote against this, but I hate it. I hate it because I want that individual to be on our EMT service. But I don't know, unless we didn't take this up all as one thing, and I don't know how it's going to sit with the rest of the EMTs either, which is the most important thing we have today is to get EMTs. Go ahead, Marty, if that was you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not in favor of certainly not in favor of having city employees taking second job as skating rink attendants or summer casuals. That just to me should not even be under consideration. So my opinion is summer casuals, rink attendants, youth center, no, we're not gonna go there. That's my opinion. As far as EMS, I don't think we should be going there either unless they're prohibited from taking on call during their normal working hours, and that they're only available for the second call outs or the affiliate category. At that point, then I could see if we're that short of people or we're getting that many calls, they should be very last in line. And as far as the fire goes, if you can break it into two separate categories where it's a 100% volunteer base, no pay, no compensation, no anything, and they want to, if they're that passionate about it, then fine. But I don't think we should be paying extra for that. If they want to be on this fully volunteer category, if we can create that category, I'd be for it. I'm against it if it's going to be throwing them into pay and overtime. Thank you.
Boy, some of these are hard, these motions, aren't they? They're tough.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to table this. I don't think we should be making this decision tonight here. We should have more discussion, have a working session, come up with a sound policy that makes sense. I'm making a motion to table this.
Support.
Brian, with the motion support, we don't even need to vote, right? It's over. Or do we vote?
I would vote.
Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that item's tabled. We'll bring it for next council. We'll give some thought to it. Try to chime in, because we can see how difficult of a subject it is. So we're gonna have to try to figure out where we land on that one. And obviously we're trying to hire EMTs, so. All right, let's move on. Memo of understanding for MAPE accrual of sick leave. Stephanie, I'll just let you take the next two.
Sure. Coming up here, there's going to be two MAPE MOUs that Brian has drafted. We had met with MAPE leadership, I don't know, a couple weeks ago for just a couple small things in their contracts. The first one is the MAPE MOU sick leave. Basically, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong on this, the way the contract currently reads is if somebody is out for any length of time for sick leave, they are not accruing any sick leave at that point in time. And what we're requesting is to have 40 hours. If they're out more than 40 hours of sick time, then they would be accruing it. So if they have a long-term sick period, they're not accruing sick leave on that period of time. Attorney Lindsay, is that correct?
That is correct, yep. And that also brings it consistent with the other contracts that we have within the city.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second for that. That is the actual reason. Thank you, Cheyenne. That is the actual reason it was brought forward, is because our contracts from one to the next are inconsistent. Further discussion, council?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Staff memo understanding for MAPification.
This one also is just a clarification of the contract. Within the contract, it is spelled out how sick leave should be monitored, but vacation is not. So what we're proposing is, say an employee takes a vacation day on Monday and then works 40 hours a week, 40 hours Tuesday through Friday. What we're proposing is that they can take straight time for that vacation day, because vacation cannot be accounted within overtime pay. So they would have 40 hours of work and 8 hours of vacation paid, straight time. It's basically just clarification of the contract.
Council, why some of this comes about is somebody like, I'll use Larry as an example, he takes a Monday off as a vacation day, and then because he works so much, he ends up putting 40 hours in the rest of the week, and he never gets to actually take any of his vacation days. They just end up just staying there so this allows him to take that vacation day, and if for some reason he ends up working 40 hours, he can get at least paid straight time for that vacation day. Then it goes away. Anyways, that corrects Stephanie, sort of.
That is correct. Or else what they can do is they can get paid for the 40 hours and not take the vacation.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question here in the memorandum of understanding. It does say straight time or compensatory, I can't even say it, guys. Comp time. I'm just gonna say comp time. But comp time to me is time and a half. Is that correct?
I'm going to defer to Attorney Lindsay on that.
Mayor, if I may? Yep. So comp time generally comp time, you're exactly right. Generally comp time accrues at 1.5 times the amount of overtime that you work. And so say you're on you get to your 40 hours, you go 2 hours over, you would accumulate 3 hours of comp time that you could then offset. You could take 3 hours off paid at straight time. And so Administrator Scraba explained this exactly right. The real motivation behind this is not to disincentivize people from, number one, utilizing their vacation, and number two, putting in the time that they feel is appropriate to get their job done. We don't want to essentially sanction someone for putting in time and doing a good job working hard by forcing them to lose their vacation. Because for the contracts, if you don't use your vacation within a certain period of time, it just goes away. And we don't want to create that lost situation.
Mr. Mayor, Attorney Lindsay, I agree with you that they shouldn't lose their vacation, they shouldn't lose their time, but it should be able to roll over in the next calendar year, their vacation at a certain amount of accrued. Is that correct? But I don't believe they should receive comp time because they've taken a vacation day and then worked 40 hours. I think there should just be, like Steph said, straight time. Put it back, because that's what we just established was straight time. But am I making any sense?
Mayor, if I may?
April, to answer your question, but you do kind of make some sense. For some reason, I think it might not be an issue because they're trying. The bottom concern is they can't get their vacation because they're working too much. So I don't know that they would take the comp time. They're trying to just be able to take some vacation and actually take it.
So I may turn Administrator Scraba's example around a little bit. So what can happen is under the way that the contract is phrased. So we're looking at overtime in terms of a 40-hour work week. And say you have somebody who plans ahead and they want to take a nice trip on Friday. They want to take a Friday off, which is a wonderful thing to do. And between Monday and Thursday, they put in 40 hours because they really ramp up their service to get that day done. So technically, they haven't exceeded the 40 hours boots on the ground, so that they're not qualifying for the overtime. And what has happened in the past, or the way things have been, one interpretation that we're trying to clarify here would say, well, they've worked their 40 hours. You just slide that vacation out. They can still take the day off because they put in their 40 already, and that the value of that vacation day goes away and just gets pushed back to another time where you may not be able to get the credit for the hours. What this says is, look, you can either elect to be paid straight time for your vacation time, so your time card will say 40 hours of straight time working, 8 hours of vacation time at straight time, so you get 48 total hours. Or the employee can elect to say, well, I've worked 40, I'll push my vacation because I think I can get some value for it at another point before it lapses. And so it really gives the employee some option, but still gives them the ability to get paid out that time and to take the value of it, because there's another clause within that contract that says you can't just turn in your vacation time for pay. You can't have a payout in lieu of vacation time. So this gives them a way where when they're losing out on the value of that time because of the extra work that they do, they can still elect to get paid out for it and receive the pay.
Brian, let me ask a question, and I don't think you answered April's question. Because in the exact example you used, if they said, well, I could use that vacation day later on, the way this is written, they get a day and a half, don't they? Later on? Because it's saying comp time.
Correct. But comp time is typically considered as overtime. And so really the way that it would be from a payroll standpoint, essentially that employee would say, I've got my 40 hours in, and I can just call it a wash at this point, get paid for 40 hours and save my vacation day. So because the difference between the issue that we rub up against here is that vacation time isn't time when you're engaged at work, so it doesn't count as hours for the calculation of overtime. And so what this does is it splits the difference between counting it as hours, because if the contract said that that vacation hours were counted in the calculation of overtime, then it's absolutely right that comp time would be at time and a half. But the way that it's interpreted at this point, they're not considered as boots on the ground engaged in work against the overtime calculation. So it doesn't necessarily create a time and a half situation because you're not exceeding 40 hours engaged in employment. Does that clarify it a little bit?
Well, what happens to that 8 hours of vacation? Does that become time and a half? Or can that just go back into your vacation fund?
It's the employee's option. They can either say, I'd like it to be paid to me, or they can say, put it back in the bank and I'll save it for another time.
So there's no comp time, correct?
Correct. It basically, you count your time worked and you offset the day. You just say, I've been paid my 40 hours and I can elect to use that vacation another time.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to,
I'll make that motion.
Understanding from me. Thank you, April. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
Is there gonna be some kind of education on this to all the employees? Because I can guarantee you this question is someone's gonna ask, why am I not getting time and a half? So there needs to be some kind of education for this. If it took us this long to figure it out, then yeah.
Counselor Rocky, this only affects 2 employees, but yes, I will speak with them.
Good, thank you.
She beat me to it. That's what I was gonna say. It only affects 2 employees. All right, we got a motion support. No further discussion. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. Some of these are tough. Some of these are tough. All right, items under myself, except resignation from Parks and Rec from Joe Erdahl, and send him a letter thanking him for his service. Looking for the motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Travis. Second.
Support, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Next item, Appoint Shelley Valentini to the Economic Development Authority. This is a very good appointment. Shelley having served as United Way, what do you call that, director? Is it?
Yeah.
Many years, so that's nearly economic development in itself. So to have her kind of come out of retirement to help us here, I think this is a great thing. So certainly recommend this appointment to the EDA.
Mayor Champa,
Yes.
if I may, so this would be filling the remainder of a term, but the term expires December 31st, 2021. So we can either appoint her to fill the remainder and then a 6-year term starting now, or appoint her January 1st on a 6-year term.
It wouldn't matter to me, but normally we do all our reappointments at the same time. So I think she would understand that we take them all up early in the year, February or whatever, Margaret, I think it is roughly.
Make the motion.
It's, the EDA board is December.
Okay. Adam, what was your motion, just to for the remainder, or you want to go to full term after that?
Just for the remainder, I think we're also gonna have another appointment at the EDA board, whose appointment is up in December, so we'll probably take them both out.
Okay, good.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Margaret?
that appointment expires December of 2022, Counselor Lance.
No problem. Like I said, we'll take these up. I don't see any issue with her reappointment in December anyway, so.
Support.
Okay, motion by Counselor Lance, second by Counselor Vaki. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Our last item, Stephanie gave me 2 dates of November 8th and November 22nd to meet with the Chisholm School Board to discuss the contract with our facilities, football fields, baseball fields. I would tend to lean towards the 22nd because I'd like to have I'd like to look at putting on the November, what is it, 8th, 10th agenda, I think. Look at putting a working session for the council to discuss that meeting prior to meeting with them to discuss some things. Stephanie, did they say anything about like time or anything? We would do it after their school board meeting, I think is normally.
It's prior, I believe it was prior to their school board meeting.
I should have asked you this earlier, sorry.
That's okay.
Is that what so we don't know an actual time or?
Sorry, hold on 1 second. I believe it's 5 o'clock.
They'd want to meet with us at 5 o'clock?
That's when their meetings are, I think, aren't they, Cheyenne? Doesn't it start at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, they have 5 p.m. board meetings unless they've changed.
I don't know, Council, did anybody remember? Did we just meet with them at that meeting and then they just rolled into their council meeting after and they didn't really change the time of their meeting? For some reason, that sounds familiar. She's thinking.
I think they've done a combination of that, or
The previous working session that we did that ended up being canceled was at 5:45. I apologize for not having the time. I just.
So after, I think, then.
Brian, what are our options here for leaving that time open? Do we look at the 22nd when we narrow the time down, just call a special meeting, or what do we do?
Yes, I mean, the special meeting could be called at any time. so long as we give sufficient notice.
So we're calling it a working session, so we're not actually taking any action here, but we are gonna discuss it. So that's a little different too, right? As long as. Council, how do you feel about the 22nd? If the 22nd is okay, we'll get an exact time and we'll just call a special meeting. We'll have plenty of time to discuss it. And then it'll give us time to schedule our own working session on the 10th prior to this 22nd meeting. Is that okay? That's okay. Somebody just make a motion to direct our administrator to come up with a time, and then we'll have Margaret put the special meeting together and we'll call 3 people to come in. Get
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, April.
And then to clarify, sorry, Mr. Mayor, to clarify, we're approving.
We're gonna direct, we're gonna meet on the 22nd. We're gonna send Stephanie to get the exact time, which we'll call a special meeting to tag it to that 22nd at the exact time. So she'll want to get that as soon as she can. So so we know, in case something happens here, we do have one more council meeting. So if something just goes south, and we can't get a quorum, then we'll have to talk about it. Further discussion?
Can't we just get clarification and put it on the next agenda and finalize it for our first meeting in November?
Sure. So how about this? We'll just direct her to find us a time on the 22nd. How's that? And we'll ratify it at our next meeting. How's that? Who made the motion? April? That sounds good, don't it, April?
Absolutely. I will rescind my first motion and make a first for this.
I think it's clearer to Cheyenne too. We'll bring it back on the next one, but we'll hone in on that 22nd. Okay, Cheyenne? Sounds good? All right.
Perfect.
Our motion and support agrees. We're directing Stephanie to get us a time on the 22nd, and we'll prove it at the next meeting. All in favor, say aye. Oh, Margaret, sorry.
Aye.
Excuse me. Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Nicola Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Miscellaneous items, council. There's many we got. I want to meet, like I said earlier, I want to meet with the Discovery Center and IROC. I think we need to have, what do you call it in economic development, a visioning. You're hearing a lot of things coming out of the Discovery Center. They'd like to do a lot of things up there. I think we need to sit down and have a good old fashioned, do we all agree with the direction everybody's going here and make sure we're all on the same page? I think, I just think before this thing gets away from us, we got to make sure we're all on the same page. I have some concerns. So that would be one of them. I think when I seen this agenda the other day, I was in shock. So there's one more item that it's kind of getting late in the year anyway, but I did not forget about the fishing on the lakes. So that was my fault. I just remembered it today when we were going through this. And I don't know what, April had something last meeting. I was trying to remember what it was, and I don't know. Was it the meeting with the Discovery and IROC, the same one is that what that was? Yeah, okay. So if there's nothing else, council, it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, as I discussed earlier, there is a committee formed between IROC, MDC, and the city, and we're going to first meeting November 2nd regarding Redhead.
Who's it, Marty? Are you going to that meeting?
Yeah, I think Travis and I are going, and Stephanie, and I think it's Brianna, Miriam, and MDC.
Okay, so that's good. Council, reach out to these individuals if you have some concerns. we don't want a quorum there, anyway. If you have some concerns, I'm okay with it. I always direct my concerns through Stephanie anyway, so.
I still think we should have, all of us get together, you know? I think
Yeah,
that
that'll be fine. We have all winter too, you know, we're gonna be closed down, so that'll be a good time.
Hey, I hate to be that guy, but can I request that our working session be in person? Since it's a working session and not an actual meeting.
The one about the, with the school board?
Aren't we having a difference? Oh no, sorry, maybe I'm lost. Forget that.
We're gonna make that motion at the next meeting if you want.
Okay.
If you get 4 votes. How about a motion to adjourn?
One more, Margaret, I don't know if it was just too early to go onto this agenda, but we need a resolution to accept the funds from the state on the fire department side.
That's correct, Counselor Lance. I was checking with Stephanie on that and Eileen.
Okay.
So we will get that on the next agenda. I didn't see where we were given a resolution to accept that donation or reimbursement.
Okay.
I would recommend us doing that. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, council?
Motion.
Motion by Adam, second by Marty. Is that okay, Marty?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Thank you, everyone.
Meeting is adjourned, council. Have a good evening.